All right. CLC, November 5th. Gonna jump in here. We've got a power packed evening tonight. Michael Greg is here from the water department to give us a report on water quality in the lakes from the few months that we had for monitoring this summer. We've got an agenda, we got minutes. I think we're gonna jump right into Michael though, so we'll free up his evening. Doesn't have to spend the entire time with us.
You want to introduce our new member?
I will do that short. Sorry, I just wanna do this as we can and see, oh, look at this. See if we can share. Check out. Is that working?
Yeah.
All right.
You can, bigger. If you want.
Suggestions?
Switch, well, because they're seeing the full, like, this is the presenter view and that's,
Right.
so there's a way to switch that. And I think that's, you might do in your PowerPoint.
I'm controlling the PowerPoint.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
controlling the
he's-
PowerPoint?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's on me, so.
Okay,
could I do
let me
something?
over to you.
Please.
All right, it just is a,
Question of going full screen or something?
yeah, just so you can see, oh, because you're, okay, right, okay, so where is PowerPoint?
Leanna, is this the presentation I shared with you
We just
about a month
looked
ago
at
at this
this.
point?
Yeah, but there's a way to,
And this is,
John,
yes,
is this a month old?
is this a month old?
This is the one I sent you in October.
Yes.
I just sent you, there's one that's
There's
updated.
more?
There is. If you,
do you have a share button on your screen? Can you could probably go into the Zoom.
yeah,
I
can I
could-
do that?
Yeah, why
I
don't- why
I
don't you
could,
just take
yeah, I
your-
could co-host with Michael here for a little bit, I think.
Do that.
Yeah, and then you can drive, that'll be easier.
Right.
Is that working for you, Mike?
He's getting that.
Let me get on.
All right, no, hey, don't rush this, man.
It's on the town website, right? The Zoom link?
Yeah, it's built to one.
Oh, it's in the agenda. Okay, I'll just go to the agenda.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hit the agenda. Pop you right in there.
Oh, yeah. For that.
Then you might just have to turn your audio off.
Yeah.
We are standing by. I think I'll take the opportunity to make an introduction. I'd like to introduce everyone to Jerry Covillo. He's our new alternate for Mill Pond.
Yay.
Joining us as of tonight. He's just run the gauntlet, seen the select board. Got the thumbs up from them, went through the town clerk yesterday, got sworn in. So welcome aboard. Tell us a funny story.
Well, I'll have to admit if I can speak, because I should an alternate, and I can't speak it.
Oh, no, you can't vote. But you know, we're not really stringent about that kind of thing here. If anybody wants to come join the meeting, we pretty much.
I'll give you all that they pay me. Okay.
Okay, great.
Do the talking.
I'd like to say I'm Jerry Cavallo. I live on Uplands Road, which isn't near the beautiful shores of Mill Pond, but Mill Pond is a little different than the rest of the lakes. It's an impoundment. As late as early 1900s, it was drained in the summertime and actually farmed, and in the winter they dammed it up and cut ice out of it. So because of that, the bottom of the lake is owned by various people. And the town owns about 60%, Conservation Trust owns about 20%, and individuals whose personal properties extend slightly into the lake is probably another 20%. So given that I'm a resident of Littleton and I pay my taxes, and that goes to the maintenance of the land on the bottom of the lake, I am a part owner and of Mill Pond.
By virtue of being,
With a vested interest.
Yeah. But so I do have 5 things I just want to go over real quick, and I don't want to get into any of them in detail, but I'd like to present like a briefing on them in future meetings, on maybe one each meeting. Go ahead. So the first one is the Mill Pond Corps of Engineers study. I'd like to take some action on that. I have some ideas that maybe weren't ventured in the report, but could be derived from the report. That's number one. Second, I'm working on getting an established trout fishing area below the Mill Pond Dam. And I'd like to improve the water quality that comes out of Mill Pond, which will boost the trout fishery that currently exists below there. The third thing is create public access to Fort Pond. I notice there's no Fort Pond people here. You don't even cover Fort Pond, but it's one of the great ponds.
Public access.
Well, the town owns property that goes to it, but they're right. There is no public access. I mean, man nor beast could get through that swamp to get in there. So I'd like to look at that, and it would reduce the stress on the other ponds. And I was talking to Mark about the MBTA communities thing. We're bringing in a lot of people into town, up to like 1,200 families in single apartments that won't have backyards. And so I think there's going to be a big push to have more use of the public properties. And I think we need to spread out some of the people going up Long Lake. Okay, another one is create a retention basin. This is a little bit tactical, but at the end of Aspen Road, there's just a pipe that goes into Long Lake. And want to put some sort of basin down there like they did with the Frog Pond to try to clean up the problems in Long Lake. And the last is, in case everything else fails, investigate the feasibility of acquiring Littleton Quarry property long-term to improve the swimming water quality. That hole that they've been digging has a lot of spring water that just springs out in it, and they pump it out and they put it in the swamp around it. But you know, every time they talk to them, it's 20 years. They're gonna have another 20 years worth of digging there. So, but I think we should look into it, and maybe the townsfolk leaders should make it, you know, inquires what's going on there. And the reason I think of it is when you fly into Nashville, they have a quarry and a bunch of people are floating around and rafting in the water. You know, down south is a little bit muddy, but it's beautiful in the quarry. So I think we should look into that in case everything else fails and cleaning up the existing lakes. So I'll.
Is that the
Aggregate?
Yeah.
on 110?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's an ongoing.
Well, as I said, this is a long-term project. They think they're gonna be going for another 20 years, and now they've been saying it for 20 years. And
There's a lot of rock there, I think.
if you folks have lived in town for a while know that 20 years goes pretty quickly, so you gotta start planning ahead with these things. And as far as it takes 40 years, at least we would have got dibs in on it.
That's almost as long as the Mill Pond study.
Jerry, how long have you lived in town?
Yeah, 40 years.
40 years.
All right, Sharon,
Cool.
thank you, thank you.
Welcome
I'm
to the-
glad you come with some
Is the pond there,
fresh
the
ideas.
Black Pond is right there, right? Is that,
That's dump.
Yeah, it's a little close to the transfer station.
is that part of is that owned by Middlesex, by Aggregate or the town?
I have to
I
look
think,
it
I
up.
think it's aggregate.
It's not the town, I know that for a fact, but it's somebody that put up a no trespassing sign. I used to fish in it 30 years ago. But they put up a sign.
All right, are you in?
I am here.
And have we got you as co-host or as?
CAVELL.
Very close. CA, V as in Victor, ALL.
That's not you sharing.
It's like the farm in Westwood,
Yeah.
the horse place.
Sean,
Paul.
say something?
Jerry with a G or J?
Johnny's a guest.
Yeah,
I wanted to tag on
that's
and
what
just,
I
welcome Jerry to the committee and say, that was fantastic that you, John asked you to introduce yourself and you're like, well, let's get to work. So
Yeah.
now we know something about you. You like to get to work, and you brought us 5 things tonight, and they're all really profound and interesting. So thank you
Yeah,
and welcome.
yeah, double down on that.
Indeed.
It's great.
I'll also make a plug for Johnny Putt Greens. If you want to enjoy some of the fruits of his labor, you can buy them at the Harvard General Store. They're a big bag of greens, microgreens and lettuce with a flower on top. Signature flower, Johnny Putt, Putt.
If you get tired of that, you can go to No Leaf where Mint works and you can have the delicious lettuce that comes from there with excellent water quality.
That's where I saw you.
Oh.
I saw you on TV.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding, yeah.
Well, go for it.
I get calls from people in Rhode Island. Hey, where can I get your greens?
Come on
Try a local farm down by you.
Oh, really?
Is that you?
How are you, Michael?
I'm in the meeting.
All right,
I don't know if I'm a co-host though.
oh, let's see what we can do.
Jerry, you've been here for.
You should have,
No, fine.
Yeah, you
I
gotta
go back
make
up
him a
for them.
co-host so he can share. And then, here, go on to,
Yeah,
On Upland?
yeah, the whole time.
Okay. Must have been just when it started then.
They did. Yeah, my,
Ed, Leon, I appreciate your endurance here. This is technical marvel. How we doing over there, Cam?
I don't see sharing yet for him.
Not an option. Let me just,
I can also go off.
Yeah,
just
we
to make
might
it
just go like that. I just created a
Should I?
lot of work for us.
did you email?
Yeah, I just sent you an updated email. It should be the last one.
Okay, let me just see if I can,
Sorry.
No, I apologize.
Well,
find that.
because you should
Always
see this green button at the bottom and then
Right,
that
right.
would magically work.
Is he,
That's John's green button.
Is he a shared host?
Oh,
Is he a co-host?
I don't know what John,
John said earlier he made him a co-host.
I was trying to, they're asking me if I want to stay a co-host, so I don't know if, I just really haven't got a handle on it.
oh, maybe this machine has to do it.
Oh, I bet that's right.
Hmm.
Mark, make him a host.
Ready to do that.
There should be a way.
Does he have to raise his hand first?
If you hover over his image, a little menu with 3 dots will appear. You click on that, it drops down and you can make co-host.
Attendee. All right, now you should have it.
You try that one more time?
Grega, is that
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so I just made you a promote to panelist. So
All right.
I think, yeah, and that should give you a share button.
All right, so it's a race at this point, see?
All right. Share.
Share.
Yeah, is it gonna work?
Sharing is caring, yep. And then you just pick what you want to share, which is the,
Share screen because it's in.
That's fine,
my
yeah.
Microsoft.
that's the easiest thing.
Okay.
All right,
Whoa, little spoiler here.
And then make it do the presenter,
Yes.
yeah, you got it.
I'll get this.
Yeah, that worked.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming tonight. I've been crunching the numbers and looking at some of our data analysis, looking at, everything we've done over the past couple of months. So thank you for inviting me out to be part of this committee, well, presenting on this committee. And we can keep this casual as well. So feel free to interrupt with any questions you might have. Anything that comes up, we can just keep it kind of open dialogue. So I just want to start. I see.
I can see right there.
Yeah, looking at the screen right here.
Okay.
I just want to start with some of the logistics we did. So we had 2 sampling events, early July and early August, for nutrient analyses and for in-field data. We had 2 algae samples taken in early August and early September to maximize our chance of seeing what algae species or taxa is really how they present the data, what that looks like in Long Lake particularly. So what happened when we went to these locations, we had 2 sample locations per lake, except for Long Lake. We only had 1 because of the general homogeneity of the lake. It's pretty uniform depth throughout. So we took nutrient samples, we took in-field parameters using our Aquatrol device. So nutrient samples happened at the surface in the bottom. So surface was about 1 foot deep, so not right at the surface, but a representative sample of it. And our bottom samples were usually a couple feet below the lake floor. And for our infield parameters, we took a surface, middle, and bottom. So middle was just half the depth. So some of the indicators that we looked at, obviously depth, knowing where we're sampling from. But we also looked at DO. We looked at conductivity, lake temperature, chlorophyll A, and blue-green algae. For our lab analyses, we looked at total nitrogen. That was broken up into 3 pools, which is the nitrates, the nitrites, and I am not good at pronouncing this word, but Kjeldahl, I believe they say it. Total Kjeldahl nitrogen. So together, these make up just total nitrogen as a body. Kjeldahl incorporates both ammonium ions and ammonia and organic particulate nitrogen. We also recorded total phosphorus as well. And these analyses are the same ones used in the EPA National Lakes Assessment. They do that every couple of years.
So the infield measurements are with the probe?
Yes, yeah, with that, it was about a 2-foot probe.
So does the green algae, blue-green algae reading work on the probe?
Yes, we'll get to that 1 second. It can be a little up in the air sometimes. So our temperature, fish, you know, what does that mean? Fish need cooler temperatures generally to survive. Warm air is directly correlated to lower dissolved oxygen levels, which fish need. Dissolved oxygen, again, required for fish life. You can see, I don't know if everyone can see on the slide right here, but this is just an oxygen requirement in parts per million or milligrams per liter of how much different organisms, aquatic organisms need. Generally, our bigger fish are closer to that 10 milligrams per liter. And when we get down to hypoxic, you know, bacteria only, that's usually under 2 milligrams per liter. Looked at conductivity, which is the concentration of dissolved ions that are capable of carrying a charge. So generally, these are regardless if they're positive or negative. So chloride, sodium are usually the dominant ones just because of all of everything that runs off into the lake. Sodium and chloride from salt and calcium as well from road salt in the winter. Those make up usually the dominant indicators there. So just a little black background on chlorophyll A and blue-green algae. So these are measured in relative fluorescent units. So essentially our probe emits, they're at different wavelengths between chlorophyll A and blue-green algae, a burst of light that is intercepted by the chlorophyll pigments. So chlorophyll A responds to a different wavelength than blue-green algae. Hopefully I'm not getting too scientific on a Wednesday night here. But depending on what pigment the algae or the cyanobacteria is, that will determine how it responds when it emits back a lower wavelength energy that is caught by our sensor. One thing to know about RFUs, they are helpful for understanding intensity here, but without specific lake parameters, it varies lake by lake on what that value correlates to in a parts per billion or micrograms per liter understanding for everyone looking at it. So it can give us a
micrograms per liter or parts per million of amount of these.
Yes, amount of algae. So microgram is actually parts per billion, but that's a smaller scale that we use for understanding algae. So they don't tell us directly the parts per billion of algae, but they tell us the intensity. So when we look at them compared to each other, Long Lake had higher chlorophyll or blue-green algae results. That can show us that there's a lot more blue-green algae activity in that lake compared to Forge Pond or Speck Pond or Mattawanaku. Josh said if I said Forge, I'll be careful. I'll tread carefully.
Well, we're good with both. So it sends out a single wavelength, but the two different types of material emit different wavelengths.
Yes,
And you look at what the strength of those particular wavelengths are.
exactly, yes.
Can you tune what you're looking for?
Yeah, so blue-green algae, that's gonna be our cyanobacteria, that's more,
But it's set, it knows that it's set for 580. You can't adjust that.
yeah, we don't adjust that.
Okay.
So the readings, I think it's 436 or something like that for blue-green algae, chlorophyll's closer to 600. So those respond, and they will send back different wavelengths. So if something is returned that is not the wavelength of those pigments, we are not gonna,
You don't recognize that.
yeah, the probe does discriminates that and takes that out of the data.
Is this a new probe style that we've been using?
I don't believe so, at least for the past 4 years. I know.
This is, okay, no one's explained it this well, it's.
So
Yeah.
is this where you tell us whether it works or not for blue-green algae?
No, this is not where I
Okay.
can tell that definitively.
Because the key there is it needs to be parameterized for each lake.
To get a, we can know
Get
that,
an absolute value.
yes,
in terms of-
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So we can look at, this is more than this one, but it doesn't
Yeah.
tell us specifically how much.
I mean, in the past, we were told that it needed to be calibrated and the calibrations were like backwards from what they were supposed to be.
I think that's what previous year's results showed, yeah.
But now we've got an expert that's running it, so we have a better.
Let's be careful with the word expert here. All right, and looking at our nutrient parameters, our total nitrogen, nitrogen is essential for plant growth, but too much of it can be bad. Bad, it's a very relative term, can
Cause
start,
too much plant growth.
yes, excessive plant growth. But are people familiar with the idea of phosphorus as a limiting nutrient in waterways? Okay, so essentially, when we're looking at phosphorus, that is the thing that there's some recent papers that I saw in college that say that might not be necessarily true all the time, but still for generally for most lakes, phosphorus is the thing that can either hold back an ecosystem, a lake ecosystem from excessive algal growth, excessive plant growth, or keeping it in check.
Don't they both have an effect?
They do nitrogen in freshwater ecosystems. Nitrogen is needed by plants, but generally it's around in enough concentration, again, at most lakes, that nitrogen is not really a, you need both of them is a point. Because if you have only high nitrogen, if you don't have the phosphorus, then plants still need phosphorus to continue their, metabolic processes, right? So if we take away that plants won't be able to.
What about the opposite? If you've got a lot of phosphorus but not much nitrogen?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Nitrogen is needed. Nitrogen is generally present in lakes in more quantity and becomes available because of a lot of biological processes that it's generally lakes are not nitrogen deficient. There's some case studies up in like Sweden of lakes that freeze for 8 months of the year, there's some special circumstances, but generally in our area, in our temperate zones, nitrogen is always present in those lakes.
Always generally adequate nitrogen, and more phosphorus generally equates to more plant growth.
Yes, yeah, because it's not being held back by that phosphorus anymore.
In your list of human-caused drivers, I don't see industrial discharge.
That is one. These were just some of the common ones, but industrial discharges can be very nutrient rich, especially if they are a factory that handles organic matter or certain chemicals that are rich in phosphorus.
Like the Pepsi bottling plant.
Yeah, I'm not in tune specifically. I have not looked at Patriot's NIPD's permit to know what they're doing. So I can't make
According to the lawsuit, they're grossly exceeding the permit.
okay, then that could absolutely be another cause, especially for the Mill Pond area.
Okay.
And anything downstream of Mill Pond
Yes, exactly.
Like Manawanaki.
Like Mattawanaki.
and Port Pond.
You can spell that sentence again.
Just move now. Move now.
It says when a lake bottom is anoxic, that means it doesn't have enough oxygen.
Yes.
Internal loading can occur. What was internal loading?
Yeah, so internal loading is, when there's no oxygen in lakes. When I say internal processes, that means within the lake itself, chemical reactions are happening in the absence of that oxygen that will actually free up phosphorus.
Okay,
Generally, that is a problem in super saturated lake ecosystems.
saturated with phosphorus?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, because phosphorus really only exists as a inorganic form, or it's inorganic matter. There's
Okay.
only a small pool that is soluble plant available phosphorus. So that internal loading can increase that that insoluble form, that plant available, or that soluble form, that plant available form.
Okay, so it doesn't cause the bottom of the lake to be anoxic. It's anoxic for other reasons, but when it is, then you have a phosphorus problem too.
Yes, then we can have samples that will show there's more phosphorus in the lake than purely what is coming from external loading, from runoff, from industrial discharges, that sort of thing.
There are conditions in which the phosphorus can get locked into the sediment, right?
Yes, that.
And then later released.
Yeah, so usually in the presence of oxygen, we're getting really in the weeds here, but usually in the presence of oxygen, certain iron, certain types of iron in the lake can bond to that phosphorus and keep it from going into the water in a soluble form. When we have no oxygen, that process cannot happen, and then legacy phosphorus is what it's referred to as, can be released, because this can be phosphorus from a decade ago, 2 decades ago. It can release itself again and cause internal loading.
But if it's stratified, it would stay at the bottom.
The loading happens at the bottom because phosphorus is generally in that particulate form that it's able to release because it's in higher quantities down there than through the rest of the soil profile, or don't help my soil class, through the rest of the water profile.
Right, but then if the water's stratified and in the summer, if it stays cold down there, the phosphorus stays down there
Yes,
until it turns over in the fall, and then it
Yeah.
can come up and cause blooms in the fall.
exactly. Yes. All right, so we're gonna look at some of our pond by pond data. I just wanna make a quick note about some of the analyses used here. So I'm not sure if people are familiar with z-scores, but essentially that value will compare a value to an average, or in this case, I use a median because our data was not normally distributed, for a median of a population. So a z-score of 0 means that the value is equal to the median. It's equal to the average of what we experience. So I compiled about 5 years of lake data here to see where our current values that we got this year, where they actually fall into line from previous years. So the farther out it goes, hopefully this will make more sense in the next slide when I show it to you. The farther out our values are means the further away it is from the average of our data set.
It says average or median.
Yeah.
Average and median are different.
They are different.
Which is it?
I included that general definition. I used the median here because our data set was not normally distributed. I did not want to do any transformations to make it to correct it. So I use median, which is a stronger parameter to use for a more variable data set.
Okay.
So I use the median. I put this in here as just a general definition because if you have normally distributed data, you use an average. But here I used a median.
Okay.
So your median and standard deviation are from the 5 years of data
Yes,
for each lake, for each parameter?
yes, they are. This is aggregated all of our lake data. So I'm comparing it to our body of lake data.
So the median and the standard deviation are for all 3 lakes?
Yes.
I mean, combined,
Yes, because even with that 5 years of data,
not a lot of data.
exactly. I wanted a bigger data set that would be more robust. Okay, for Madawanica. So this is, imagine we're looking at a profile of the water, right? So this is the water column here. So we have a DP is our deep point. That's where we sampled at the deepest part of the lake. And our southern bay is our shallow point. So, you'll see this is supposed to represent a lake profile. So the bottom up here, they're all the same size because I thought that would be easier for comparison to look at. But we only have about 10 feet of data here. On the deep part, we have about 32 feet of data there. So, so everything that comes from the middle here. So if we're looking between the negatives, 0, right down the middle. If it's 0, that means it's average. So just look at the trends. That's kind of the hope I was looking for. Look at where the trend is. If it's between -1 and 1 of a z-score, that typically means, that falls generally within like 2/3 of most of the data. If it's outside of that, it is a value that we should be looking at and taking special consideration.
So when you did your medians and standard deviations, was that for all depths, or was each depth had its own median and standard deviation?
That was for all depths, but that is for all depths. So again, because we didn't have enough data to make, what do we get between 10 and 15 feet in Forge Pond? So for some of these, like temperature, like obviously we see like the deep part of Forge Pond, obviously that is going outside of that -1 to 1 area. That is a little less important, but all the other parameters are important. I shouldn't say that temperature is not important, but temperature is
Not surprising.
expected, yes, that we see it get colder than the average temperature because it's the deeper part of the lake where temperatures are colder.
When I read the color right, that the dissolved oxygen in Lake Madawanica and Forge Pond is much lower than your median.
It is, yes, it is. I'll have a raw data graph later where we can explore that a little more. But yeah, that's definitely something I want us to pick up on here is that DO is really dropping off even right around, I think that sample was around 12 feet.
Yeah.
So that's.
It's as low at 12 feet as it is at the bottom.
We'll also see that conductivity has actually increased and is greater towards the bottom of Forge Pond. That is likely because matter settles, right? And we're having probably, and if especially, we try not to let this happen, but sometimes it just might of the probe, if it actually hits the floor of the lake, that can kick up some dust, any particulates that might be laying on the ground. And because specific conductivity is measuring our ion, the ability to carry an electrical current, which is directly correlated to ions. Some of those ions that may have settled out may have been kicked up again. But in general, even if that doesn't happen, we see that those ions are more likely to settle out at the bottom. So, and that is why when we have our lake turnovers in spring and fall, nutrients from the bottom, those fallen, when we look at maybe more calcium, sodium really isn't really plant nutrient. In some circumstances it is, but I'm trying to think of other ions here. Sulfate is needed when that lake turnover happens. That's not just putting phosphorus back on the top, but those other essential minerals that are needed by aquatic plants and algae, cyanobacteria.
So, these values combine the two readings? The 2 months?
These values, so we actually these are only from our July data set, is when we went out in August. For those that we sampled with, our probe actually broke then. So we were unable to collect that data then, but we did get our nutrient analyses then.
Oh, okay.
So these are looking specifically at our July. So we'd expect warmer temps in August as well, as the summer's getting longer, as we're getting hotter in the summer. All right, and the South Bay, our chlorophyll is actually kicking up a little bit around that 1 marker there. So we're seeing some chlorophyll A is a more general parameter for non-cyanobacteria, algae, other photosynthetic material. All right, so in Spectacle Pond, we see a similar trend in our deep zone with temperature. Again, that's less noteworthy here. But again, we're seeing a pretty sharp drop off in our dissolved oxygen, right? That's outside that -1. Our values are significantly lower than our rolling median for the past several years. And like we saw also in Forge Pond, our conductivity is rising at the bottom again. I think a really interesting piece to look at here is in our northern lobe sample that we took. This was our shallow reference spot at Spectacle Pond. We see again the dissolved oxygen. Usually it can stay pretty uniform in about 10 feet, but as we're getting to that 12 foot, we sampled 12 or 13 feet here. As we get to that mark, the DO is again dropping off. And the temperature is also a little cooler than average, even for that depth. So something noteworthy there. And at Long Lake, again, we only had our one sample here because the lake is generally it's pretty similar throughout the profile in terms of depth and area. You might be looking right now at the blue-green algae that jumped way off. That actually Z-score was 6, which is the highest sample we had when we've been there.
Michael, which line are you referring to? I can't.
The red one.
Sorry, the red one.
Shoots off to the right.
I'll make sure we'll have a copy of
We can
this.
distribute all of these.
Yeah, perfect.
Even at 2 feet, it's +1.
Yeah, even in our surface sample, which is weird because I would expect our surface sample to actually have more, but that is not what we found here. And it was the same trend with the chlorophyll A, right? So we're seeing much higher intensities of those in our bottom samples. On a positive note, our dissolved oxygen is higher than general in both our samples. So good job Long Lake there.
Just a question, you said that the depth is pretty much equal across Long Lake, is that what you said?
It doesn't usually, correct me if I'm wrong, Long Lake representatives, but when we were sampling, it doesn't usually get below 12 or 15 feet.
There's a spot that's like 33 feet.
Yeah, not the depths here, you tested right in the deepest spot, the 22-foot spot.
Yeah, but we weren't able to find anything anywhere near 22 feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when we were out there, yeah, we kept.
So the state did this in 2018. I checked because it was part of the budget to do it again, I guess, and then I looked it up and the state has it listed, it was done in 2018. So if it's not there, I wonder how the state measured it.
Lake holes and drops.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that could be, the surface is lower, right?
True,
Okay.
but 33
10 feet
feet
long.
would be,
Yeah,
so,
it's,
Let's say,
What does that say? It says it's 22 feet or that's?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's 22 feet
We
to
haven't
left on
found
the hole.
that magic location.
but it certainly varies,
Oh, yeah,
it's not
that's
like
what I
a,
know.
Was that
that's the
22
deepest
it's not like
one.
a pothole.
yeah.
The lake has that ridge across the center and.
It's about 8 feet deep. And of course,
Yeah.
shallower on the perimeter, but,
Yeah, 22 feet there. Yeah, I'm guessing we probably got around 12 or 14 feet and then cast it right around, or excuse me, 10 or 12 feet and we cast it around 8 feet, just so we weren't trying to, disturb the bottom there.
I think we actually found a deeper spot, the following month, but.
Oh,
the probe was.
without the probe, yeah. Wonderful. Well, good thing to know, going forward there, sure. So that is our Long Lake. All right, so now, turning our attention to nutrient benchmarking. I think it's important to consider, before we jump into this, that there is not a hard, fast set. If you're over X amount of phosphorus, you are eutrophic. Or if you're under it, you are in the clear. Every lake is different. And in 2020, when I was trying to find good data to compare, to benchmark what we had against what we see in similar lakes, the EPA had revised, in 2021, the EPA revised its ambient lake water quality nutrient standards. They did not issue a single value. The values they used depended on, the dominant lake use. So do we want to use this lake for recreation? Do we want to use this lake as a fishery or, for, other uses similar to that? Or is this an industrial discharge lake where we're okay with a higher value? So finding good criteria for that would be dependent on statistical models that are done. And that gets really complicated because you can involve Mass DEP because they handle that from the EPA. But overall, I looked at our list of impaired watersheds, our integrated list. I don't know if people are familiar with that. In most of our freshwater lakes, the trend that the state sets for phosphorus is around 10 to 20 micrograms per liter. That's parts per billion. So for nitrogen, because that is less of a concern, because we're really focused on phosphorus being way overloading our lakes and causing these issues as a limiting nutrient, there are less nitrogen recommendations for that. Nitrogen recommendations are very important in brackish and in coastal waters. So if you go on the Cape, actually right now they are, people know Falmouth, been to the area, everyone that lives along like those coves, they are being put on sewer soon because all the nitrogen that is pushed out from their septic systems is completely overloading these like shallow marine areas. But in our freshwater systems, nitrogen is really the key determinant here. So the state is more focused on that.
You mean phosphorus?
Yes, did I say nitrogen?
Yeah.
Phosphorus. One thing to note, our lab has a detection of 10 micrograms per liter, 10 parts per billion, and 100 for nitrogen. So again, those, like I was saying earlier, those occur in unequal. Nitrogen usually is much higher in lakes than when compared to phosphorus. So we're going to see much higher nitrogen values, and that tells a story, but that doesn't need to be our scare point when looking at lake health. So for Forge Pond, so these are a little different than the last slides. So these are looking at change over time. So we have, I broke it up into our July phosphorus and August phosphorus, and our July total nitrogen and August total nitrogen. So what we are looking at here is a shift from our red, our July phosphorus. We'll notice it's actually higher than our orange, our August phosphorus. So at all depths. So we're seeing a decrease in all depths of phosphorus values here. Okay, that's interesting. That process is actually declining. On the other hand, nitrogen, we see our purple July nitrogen between then and August, which becomes our black nitrogen. We are actually increasing here. So in every point here, nitrogen values are increasing. So we're having this balancing act right now, at least in Forge Pond, of phosphorus values going up or going down over time and nitrogen going up over time. So we'll circle back to this a little later in some of our other analyses, but just remember that trend that's going on.
I don't see the phosphorus at the lower depths.
The phosphorus in July or August. Our sample point here was, we sampled right around 25 feet. The point there, I think I may have drawn it a little shallow. We were right around 30 feet here, so we lifted it a little bit off the bottom.
But we should have an orange line that goes from at 3 depths and a red line that goes 3 depths.
Yeah, they're at the far, the values are so low.
They're so low. Yeah, they're like right there. Y-axis.
Oh, so both orange and red are, so what's that red thing across the top?
That is our surface nitrogen or surface July phosphorus sample. So we actually have a really high phosphorus value up here in July.
Why is there a line across there?
Looks like there's like 2 values at the top.
Yes, because this was done in 2 locations. So both of them are put here. So we have one that's out here and one that's out here. And then the rest fall into line and are pretty closely overlap with each other.
Which was the high one?
The high one, I will have to check that
South
data.
Bay?
I believe that is in the South Bay though. I'll get back to you on that, look at my raw data.
Is that closer to the farm?
It's closer to the farm, it's, closer to, where the Gilson comes in and goes past the feedlot. It's shallower.
Yeah, that was taken right, there we go. That was taken right there on Mattawamkeag. All right, so for Spectacle Pond, we are seeing, what we are seeing here is, again, our July phosphorus, our red, outpacing our August phosphorus is so low, it's actually at 0. So it kind of runs along the axis here until it gets to the very bottom. So we're getting actually 0 reads in August, or 0 detection, below 10 parts per billion detection, I should say, in both of these heights here.
Do we believe that?
Is that a good thing too?
It is subjective. Yes, it's good that we have low phosphorus values.
Yeah.
That is good that we are noticing that. And we are also having, so we're seeing a decrease again, right? Because this is our red, this is our July, and then this is our August. So we're again, same thing that's happening in Forge Pond is happening here. We're having a decrease in phosphorus over time at all depths. Nitrogen, the story is a little different. We have higher surface between July and August. We have higher surface nitrogen values. Excuse me. And we have lower August nitrogen bottom values. And they're the same in the middle, making everything a little more complicated.
I mean, is 2 enough data sets, would you say? Like, is that?
No. Like that's, that's what we did. That's what we got right now.
Yeah.
Could the phosphorus be going down over the summer because it's getting sucked up by the plants?
That is a great, in 2 slides, I will address that. Okay.
Maybe.
And in Long Lake, what we are noticing, our July, the same exact trend. We have our red July decreasing in our, to our August. So all the samples are getting lower in August again. And in July, for our nitrogen, we're seeing an increase into August.
Is there any check on the calibration of the sensors over the season? Is there any chance the sensor itself is becoming less sensitive to phosphorus as the summer progresses?
So these nutrient samples are collected and sent to a lab. So they do their own quality checks. They have their own, these are carried out by EPA methods. So we trust, especially the place that we're sending them to, we trust their interpretation.
Like kept on ice?
They are kept on ice. Yeah, we had to lug those on every boat. Yeah.
And what you're saying here, so yes, phosphorus is going down, but it's still really high, and the same with nitrogen. Okay.
Exactly,
So
because
it's not good. I mean, it's still not good.
right.
Okay.
The decrease is important, but remember, if we're between 10 and 20, I think our surface limit here was like 16. So I think that was like in that range, but our bottom exceeds that, and all of July exceeded that too. That probably would have been helpful to put like a 10. Yeah. 10 milligram or part per billion line to show where we cross and where we don't. So.
Okay.
All right. So what does this all mean? Again, it's important that we don't extrapolate this into like lake trends off of, what do we get? We got 40 samples or so across 3 lakes. But we're noticing that consistent trend in every lake of high phosphorus to low phosphorus between July and August. And generally, for the most part, we're seeing low nitrogen to high nitrogen from July to August. So things are swapping here. A couple other important things to look at. We had no levels. Nitrate, NO3, is a nutrient that is immediately available for plant uptake and is soluble in water. We had no detections of nitrate throughout this entire sampling. Zero. Not a single one. That could mean it's such a hot commodity that it's being taken up as soon as it's available, as it's transforming in the lake. That would be my guess, because we do have like substantial nitrogen values in our total nitrogen body. So this means since these values are coming from our TKN, our Kjeldahl samples, those are our particulate phases, our organic phases, and ammonium phase. So one other thing we noticed, benthic samples, our bottom sediments, generally have the highest nutrients. Again, for phosphorus, that could be because of an internal loading phenomenon, because we saw there is no DO down at these bottom depths. All those values for at least for Forge, Mattawamkeag, and Spectacle Pond, our middle and bottom samples were always 0 for or under 1, I should say, for our DO in the raw data. So we're definitely hitting those anoxic targets in that area. So
Targets.
Some theories about what's happening here. Like I said, our internal loading could cause high P levels in bottom samples. So that's one phenomenon that we saw, because when that internal loading happens and that phosphorus is getting released into the water, it's not traveling, like it can't travel fast. It stays close to the bottom, close to that benthic zone. One thing that could be happening here is that algae is consuming that phosphorus from July to August, as our cyanobacteria, our algae, and our aquatic plants are growing and rapidly taking up all that nutrient. And the increase in nitrogen can be because that organic plant matter can, from earlier, as all this microbial activity is happening in this lake, in this warm lake, nutrient-rich lake, more decay happens faster. So nitrogen that may be decaying from previous seasons or from even this season, if it died early, if we have a early summer species that died and starts decaying, then we are noticing those high nutrient-rich materials becoming more widespread in August.
I think we have all of that. If you had the decay, then wouldn't it also increase the phosphorus?
Great point. So nitrogen is much more common in plant tissues than phosphorus. So the ratio between them, nitrogen is so much more greater that it would be hard to say at even the levels of phosphorus we have in the lake. So that decaying plant matter is so much more rich in nitrogen than in phosphorus that we might not be seeing just the phosphorus.
But if you're saying that the increase in plant material is what's causing the phosphorus to go down, then the decay should cause it to go up. So
it would go up, but because it's a limiting nutrient, when it decays, it gets immediately absorbed by something else. It gets immediately uptaken in another body. Is that?
But if that was true, then your level would stay effectively the same.
It would be hard to measure in a grab sample, I would say. But I mean, yes, that could also happen. So that is one potential. Again, we need more evidence for a really suitable explanation. That is just one phenomenon.
Milfoil by end of the first week in August is starting to fall apart.
Right. Yeah. So that's exactly where we could be seeing that elevated nitrogen. And sometimes when you do a grab sample like that too, just because of the entropy in lakes, like you get a sample and it doesn't have phosphorus when it should have phosphorus, or it doesn't have nitrogen when it should have nitrogen, and if we, had a lot more sampling, then we could maybe more definitively key in on what's happening, because we also don't know to the full extent what pools within the TKN sample are, like what nitrogen form that is existing in, right? So that's another thing we don't know. So just some this is our raw data here. So just some lake-wide conclusions we have as we get, again, this is depth. I didn't color these ones because this is raw data. As our depth gets greater across all of our lakes and all of our sample points, we are increasing in conductivity. Our dissolved oxygen, this is an important one, right around where we hit that maybe 10 or 12 foot area, with the exception of Long Lake and with the southern bay of Mattawamkeag, we are just going like straight to zero on that DO, or less than 2 for sure. So creating those inopposite conditions. One other thing I want to touch on here is our thermocline and DO. So lake stratification, right? When we have our overturning in the fall and in the spring, or spring and fall, I should say, there is a difference in what lakes look like. As that overturn happens and it settles out over the summer and we get this hotter surface area and this cooler middle to bottom part of the lake, we see that in an oligotrophic lake, that's a healthy lake, it looks much like this, where DO actually increases as we get deeper and as temperature declines, right? Because we know that temperature is related to dissolved oxygen. Colder temperatures, higher dissolved oxygen, and the reverse is true. Higher temperatures, lower dissolved oxygen. In our eutrophic, our unhealthy lakes, we see that DO and temperature mimic each other. So as temperature, as we have our thermocline here, the DO totally drops off at the end here too. We don't have a bump or even a stable amount of dissolved oxygen throughout the profile of the lake. It goes to zero right where the thermocline is happening. So if we look at what we actually observed in our lake, these are our DO. I apologize, probably could have coded this colors better here, but we see that our temperature are these values right here. This is our temperature on the bottom and our DO on the top. As these temperatures are creating our thermocline, where we're having our warm temperature transition into our colder temperature, our DO is straight shot going to zero in these bottom parts of these deeper lakes. I excluded Long Lake because where we sampled might not be, deep enough to have a full stratification. Yes. So
why is the difference between a healthy lake and a eutrophic lake in terms of the correlation between temperature and dissolved oxygen?
Can you repeat that question again, please?
Why is there a difference in the correlation between temperature and dissolved oxygen for the different kinds of lakes?
Right.
Healthy lake and eutrophic lake.
There's a couple things, DO in a eutrophic lake, where there's so much energy, where there's so much microorganism action taking in that dissolved oxygen, we are seeing that the DO is taken away immediately. So in lakes where there is less nutrients available, where there is less like hyper-competitive algae aquatic plants, we are seeing that DO can either remain stable or increase because it's not immediately being taken up. That's sometimes more a correlation than directly as a result of temperature in that eutrophic circumstance.
So in a healthy lake, as the temperature gets lower, there's not as much biological activity, and so the DO stays up.
Yes.
And in a eutrophic lake, even though it's cold, there's enough biologic activity down at that level that it eats it all up.
Yes, and nutrients, right? That's a key factor here. As we get our eutrophic state where we have lots of nutrients.
That's why the biologic activity stays up.
Exactly. Yes. So what we observe, I kind of rough drew in lines to help visualize this better, but this is our data just overlapped. Which lake does this look like more of?
Well, that's obviously Long Lake.
We're seeing it looks more like our unhealthy lake down here. This is our eutrophic lake down here. Yeah. So that is generally what one characteristic that these lakes are exhibiting here. Yeah. And algae, I just want to touch on this real quick. We kind of called out earlier, besides, we're kind of having this bump in our mid regions of our algae. So that's less, our chlorophyll A, that's a little less seen in the blue-green algae graph, but especially in our chlorophyll A, we're having a bump right around that middle section of the lake, which is interesting. And for our algae ID, some of the, again, we did this in August and September, so peak growing season. Some of the species that we saw, because I can't pronounce all of these, I apologize, but Cuspidothrix, I believe is what you call it. This is generally another indicator, this is happening along lake, right? Of our meso to eutrophic lakes, which are middle to eutrophic unhealthy lakes. We did also find Anabaena, I think, and Microcystis.
Good enough.
These bacteria are capable of producing harmful algal blooms that we have maybe heard about in other areas like Lake Champlain. That only happens if they are present in quantity, if the toxin, if the blue-green algae, that's what they are, if they are present in great enough concentrations, they can produce enough toxins to be harmful. Our levels did not indicate that we are close to that threshold. So the Massachusetts DEP recommends lakes close around 70,000 milligrams or parts per million, I should just say. If we hit 70,000 milligrams there, that's saying we maybe should be a potential lake closure. Our highest sample was 8,000. So we are not really close to an advanced, a hyper-eutrophic state.
Are these different species all blue-green algae?
So these are our cyanobacteria, which are mostly as a taxa, are blue-green algae. And then they broke it up that way. And then these are algae species. So that would be more responding to our chlorophyll A, mostly for some of these species. So
if we were to get pictures from citizens in town saying, this is blue-green algae in Long Lake, which we have gotten here.
They said.
Well, there's been concerns over that, right? I mean, we can say like, due to recent testing, like we're nowhere near the limits, like. It's reasonable. I mean, I would phrase it somehow differently, but people do ask us sometimes.
I would say going off of last year's data, right? It changes every year, and some years it might be higher or lower. You can say last year, it does not appear that we had
or anywhere close to that level. There is some blue-green algae in Long Lake, but it is nowhere near harmful levels at this point.
If you are seeing visible mats or you're seeing completely green water on the lake shore, that's another indicator that you are at that threshold. But before that's washing up on the shore, and causing is diffuse.
Like we have algae that looks like sparkles through the water, like just bands, like dense.
Right.
People are out paddleboarding and so on, and they're like, what if I fall in? Do I die? I don't think it's harmful. I think it's food, right?
Yeah. These are many different species, right? So these two that we noticed are only a drop in the bucket compared to what actually is in the profile. Yeah. And a vast majority of these are not harmful bacteria or algae and cyanobacteria.
Yeah. I mean, we kid ourselves that it's water. It's not, it's water plus.
Right. As is any lake, right?
Well, everything. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's just jam packed and, no, you don't want to drink it.
Right.
Is there some protective effect of all of our lakes having a lot of plant growth in them and algae? My sister lives on a lake up in New Hampshire. It's crystal clear, and they had to close down the lake because they got that loaded bacteria in it. And so it seems like to me, just from those two samples, that a really clear lake can't really deal with warmer temperatures, and it creates that bad algae. But ours is more in balance with all the different. Is there any theories like that, or? Because Long Lake looked like a perfect place you would get this dangerous algae because it's warm and it has
shallow, it's warm.
Yeah,
right.
But it doesn't seem what you're saying. It doesn't have it. So is there some protective effect that we have because we have so much
from time to time?
Yeah, it's all seasonal, right? So these things can happen quickly, go away. Like algae have a very short lifespan.
So I've never seen a sign at the beach that you can't swim.
No, because we haven't reached that threshold.
We've only sampled twice.
Not this year. Yeah, at two samples.
But most years.
During the max, I would drive to Long Lake weekly as well, and if we had those visual cues, then I would say something. I didn't see anything that concerned me when I drove out there in August and September. So. Not that you shouldn't be, I'm not the only guy that should, be.
It might have been 3 or 4 years ago now, but they
Mhm.
did close the beach. What they do is, of course, you can't analyze it because you can't, you just see it. It's
Right.
visible as evidence at the beach.
Exactly.
And out of a preponderance of caution, the beach is closed immediately. And then there's some testing, but you don't get results from the test for weeks. So,
Right.
you kind of go, well, maybe we're closed for the weekend, maybe we're closed for 4 days. We don't really know.
Exactly.
They closed it 2 or 3 years ago because there was questions about whether the upland could go off.
And that was for algae.
I think so.
That's why the state heavily relies on visual indicators, because if we take a sample, this took us like 3 weeks to get back. And it's like, if we sent that in, those colonies could be long gone by the time,
Sure.
anything actually happens. So that's why the state, when they're making these recommendations to boards of health, they like to say, what does it look like? Like this cell count indicator is one thing that we can use in our toolbox, but that's not gonna, it's a very dynamic, fast moving system
Sure.
that,
It seems to spike in a very short period of time.
yes,
Or it doesn't.
Mhm.
We don't know why,
Right.
but yeah, that's okay.
But isn't that why we got the probe? So we could do regular daily readings to watch if it's starting to go up?
Yes, so again, because that is measured in relative fluorescent units, we can see intensity. We can't see what this is showing us here, which is concentration in parts per million or parts per billion. You can establish that, but you need several tests in each lake, because they are highly lake specific tests that show, all right, this is on the day we sampled with this fluorescence, we got this value, this exact value that was sent to a lab. And then when we have enough of those, we can make a graph of, all right, what's the trend showing? Like where does this end up if we get a RFU value? This can correlate to a actual meaningful part per million, part per billion value.
The nice thing about Ford Pond is Westford tests every week because they have the daycare there.
At the beach? And they post the result on the website.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and then if those beaches were closed, we'd know it.
Right.
Hmm.
All right, so some considerations here. Earlier monitoring to track season-long lake changes. A more complete, this is what I was saying earlier, if we wanted to actually make that correlation graph and show this is what we have for a fluorescent unit, this is our concentration of algae in the water. Then we could, if you do that enough times, then we can say, all right, this algae RFU reading is essentially free because we have the probe and we can, instantly get that data. So that's one direction. Another thing we could do is testing orthophosphate and ammonium. Orthophosphate is the phosphorus soluble, immediately plant available form. And ammonium is, along with nitrate, the other nutrient that is immediately available for plant uptake. So those can also tell you a lot about how are plants using available nutrients in the water. Is it being sucked up immediately? And that could help refine my theory earlier, because if the TKN sample was all ammonium, then there's a lot of plant available nitrogen in the water that's not being uptaken, and that disproves my theory there. So that is something in the future. And sampling nutrient inflows, I know that's like what's going into the lake is important. How much loading is coming from our contributing source water, from our surface water, from our stormwater runoff, those sorts of things. And I'm very eager to see the effects that our eco harvesting in the future has on our bottom nutrient levels, right? Where we have the highest. See what happens there. So
Now, do you feel though, okay, you've said all this data stuff. Okay. We get weeds. My theory, because I've been living there for 62 years, okay, is when we started harvesting years ago, we would take this harvester and it would rake the bottom. And it would go out about 10 feet,
It's hydro braking.
hydro rake. And dump it. But when they get out there, they went like this, half the stuff fell out there. So at the end of my dock, I never had a weed. Never, ever had a weed.
Right.
All of a sudden I have weeds out there and out farther. Okay?
Mhm.
Now, this lot, so we were doing that, but only in certain houses. So it didn't matter as much. Now we're doing this weed harvester that flies around and it cuts it like an old lawnmower. Okay? And it takes out, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, gets 90% of the weeds out.
Mhm.
Okay? Now we're gonna let all the weeds just flow around, okay? And this fall, we were at our house and we were cleaning up the weeds. And we found a weed going across and it had roots. So what do when you want to change a plant? You cut it, you dip it in water, and you let it root, right? So my opinion on this whole thing is I don't like the weed harvester because it cuts and it throws all this stuff around and it just, I try to scoop it up all the time, get it out of my way. But I think it's floating around, dropping and coming back up. Where I think if we use herbicides, that, okay, it floats to the bottom. It's dead. I mean, we were doing herbicides for Speck Pond for years, and it was very good. Now it's not very good. For Long Lake, we've been doing herbicides. Very, very good. We had floating islands because I think the muck finally came up and floated around.
Well, the dead plants.
The dead plants
Yeah.
came up and they.
Methane and floating.
I understand that. But in you studied all this plants and everything. Why are we getting more weeds? But I've been there for 62 years.
Mhm.
And I've seen more life in the last 20 than the 40.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of circumstances that can lead to that. I would say, especially with some of the aggressive species that have been introduced in the past 20, 30 years, we're talking, I'm not sure if that's in Mattawanna specifically, but fanwort and milfoil, those are incredibly prolific and they can take over quickly. So when those are introduced, however many years ago, exponential growth will totally take out areas that that are habitable for these species.
And we have high phosphorus, really high. And so the lawsuit is grinding its way through the court. They're supposed to be discovering whether probably give the name of the company, Patriot, whether the plant is or isn't breaching its obligations. But the data that the Western Conservation Law Foundation collected indicates that they're putting very high levels of phosphorus into Beaver Brook, and that all ends up coming into Forge Pond.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't all. Some of it must dissipate in the wetland,
Right.
but
conditions
that
are
may be
right.
the explanation for the description you just gave.
Yeah.
Yeah, the conditions are right, because once nutrients are in a lake, they don't tend to leave easily. So they certainly do in some regards, but especially phosphorus, once they're there, they just keep building a bank of themselves,
So is there, in terms of early monitoring to track season long lake changes, how many, you only did 2 last summer?
Yes.
What should we be doing? How early do we start? Like, how many data points would you actually want to feel like, yeah, we know what's going on?
Well, the consideration is always a budget, right? So,
Yes.
The 2 monitoring, events that we had for the nutrient analysis, that was about 3,000
Yeah.
for what we did there. And that was our budget,
Right.
for this one. Early monitoring, could start as early, again, if there's money and people are invested in it, in May.
And you do it every month, like May, June, July, August.
And you could end it in
September,
October.
5 months,
Yeah, if you wanted. So, some of those specifics I would,
We used to do that.
All right, that is, okay, I did not know that.
Mhm.
So if budget weren't an issue, you'd say like start in May, go till August.
I'm a data guy,
Yeah,
so if you say budget's not an issue, I'm gonna say, let's get out there every week, well, not every week, but like,
Yeah.
let's get out there and really figure out more.
And then is there any mitigation that like from, like, we're seeing, like, this is good to understand what's going on, but you just said phosphorus is in the water, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, there, I mean,
Like,
there
what
are.
can we do about that? Besides preventing more phosphorus from getting in the water?
That is what so I just graduated from University of Vermont, and all of our research teams in the environmental department, most of them, were looking at ways to reduce phosphorus in the lake or getting into the lake, because it's a problem everyone's dealing with, and there haven't been any one size fits all.
Yeah,
What are some of the options?
In a really, if you have a lake that is incredibly hyper eutrophic and there's little chance at any else, there are some aluminum products that you can broadcast on the lake. They will kill the algae, and the thought is they will bind to the phosphorus. They are very toxic to fish life, to a lot of bacteria life. So that's one option. I wouldn't say we are at that point of wanting to do that.
And that mostly is,
Is that the copper sulfate?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Copper and aluminum.
We've got people on Long Lake who say, well, you know what you need to do?
Right.
Yeah, kill all the fish.
doesn't that mostly affect the algae, not the rooted plants?
Yeah, it is mostly algae, so you still have your rooted plants there, but I believe part of the other thought is, at least in some of the phosphorus that is soluble in the lake, or might be contained within in small concentrations that is contained within the algae that the phosphorus can actually bind. Then you get into the same problem of, well, it binds and then sinks to the bottom, and then do we have internal loading because we don't have dissolved oxygen in the lake again? So then it's gonna end up at some point, 10 years, 20 years down the road, releasing again.
So if it is an issue and you want to do more testing, do you change which testing you're doing to do more of the nitrogen phosphorus testing and less of the algae testing, or vice versa, or?
I would say that is up to,
I assume the algae testing is more expensive.
yes, the algae testing, so again, for about 48 or so samples, I think that we sent to the lab over 2 months, maybe it was closer to 40. It was about $3,000 for those samples. Or it was about, $2,200 for those samples. The algae ID samples, because the lab closest to us that we know of, at least, that does algae ID is in Connecticut, we have to pay for a courier to pick it up and everything. Those come out to be about $250 to $280 per sample. So those can quickly eat up a budget. So if algae is a priority for the group, then if that's the direction you want to go and you want a better monitoring scheme there, then that's the direction of the group. But if you guys want more in-pond data collection with nutrients, that's
So which should be the priority for the group in your opinion?
oh, I would not say I have a professional opinion here, but I think that we know more. Algae is something that people see and have a reaction to, and most instances don't think a lot about it if they don't see it. In that sense, I would say nutrient might be more important because we never see what's happening there. And we can see if we have a hot summer day and all the conditions are right that algae bloom does occur. More nutrient data though is where it might be good to focus and hone in on.
Right, and if what you're saying is it takes 3 weeks to get the algae data back and the conditions have now changed.
Right. So how do we act?
And the nitrogen phosphorus oxygen tests are relatively cheap.
Yes. Yeah.
So you could do those you could add all of those in for the extra month without drastically increasing your budget.
Yeah. If we were posting right around $1,100, $1,200 a month for our nutrients alone. So without those algae, we could have almost done another month,
So I don't understand though, because there's really nothing you can do about it. So why are we collecting all this data if there's nothing that can be done?
That is, I have been told that is the direction that Littleton Lakes want to go in. You know, when I came on a couple months ago with Josh, it just said, we're going out and we're doing nutrient sampling for Clean Lakes Committee.
Is it useful data to have? To that point, like, is it worth even doing that? Or do we know these lakes
Well,
are?
What are you gonna do with the data? is what-
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the crux.
There's
right?
probably some other things we could do with that money that might have more of an effect on the quality of the lake. If the data we already have is what's gonna continue on for years to come, because the phosphorus doesn't go anywhere,
Right.
the nitrogen doesn't matter. So,
Yeah, I have an opinion there that
Good.
it would be, I think the data in this presentation was good, and we're a very receptive audience and pretty savvy too. And we were able to read between the lines a little bit, but it got kind of dangerous to do so, even among ourselves. And I think the data set isn't really complete because it lacks sufficient months and maybe even frequency within those months. So I think we should try again next year, try to build it a little bit so that we have a more robust, bulletproof presentation, and then approach it in a couple ways. Find out which nutrients we really want to target in live times so that we can head off an algae bloom, especially in Long Lake, so that the public can be served with a good swimming season. And then also try to find partners in the community who would be receptive to a fresh presentation, where we could say to our landscaping friends or our commercial businesses, Ocean Hardware or something, can you like let us set up our brownie stand? Or well, you know, the Girl Scouts sell their cookies. We could have our little place where we're saying, you know, homeowners, this is a non-point source pollution problem, meaning everybody's spreading phosphorus around their yards.
Don't buy fertilizer from Abushan. So Abushan's not gonna want us to sell it.
Don't use a septic tank.
But we partner with them. I mean, the people, John at Abushan's been there for decades. And I think he wants to stay, and he does good stuff for the community.
So I'm going to kind of really rephrase what you said, I think. But I think having a couple years of more frequent data so that you can show that none of these are statistical anomalies and you can show trends would be good to have, right? In maybe 3 years, you change your sampling rate because you can say that, you know, this is what we're expecting, and instead of doing it 5 times, you go back to 2 or 3 times and say, you know, we're expecting it to be relatively stable, but you don't have enough data out now to actually base much of anything on it, right? So to get more data would be useful,
Right.
I think.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on that.
What you end up doing with it.
yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
I heard any solutions.
Yeah, Leon, you're coming through. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on that. One of the reasons Spectacle Pond wanted to do testing over a long period of time is that we were hoping to make a dent in our DO problem. And I'm not sure that the data shows that. And the way that we were making a dent in the DO problem is that we stopped doing herbicide treatments for 4 years, essentially. Did echo harvesting for 3 years, and unfortunately did nothing for this past year. I wanted to see, I don't know if 4 years worth of not doing herbicide treatments was going to show any reduction in DO, but that's what we were hoping for. Maybe we need to do it for 10 years. But I think it's money well spent if we can figure out if we can make a dent in DO or a DO problem. I think all of our ponds have DO issues.
Down south, they use bubblers in their ponds, but they don't turn over either. I don't think this winter and summer. So that is always our DO tool. But does anybody do that? Put bubblers in to keep homogenize the water?
You'd have nothing but silt all the time.
I think,
And that's mostly surface level too, right? Unless you have bubble at the bottom.
Yeah, you put the bubbler on the bottom and it circulates the water. Has that ever been done as a solution for DO?
not that I know of, maybe.
Very
all
unnatural.
lakes. I would say, yeah, like DO is going away in the lake. principally because creatures in the water, so our, not only our fish and our bacteria and our algae, they are all consuming it. So that's what's really drawing it away. So the choke point is, how do we stop that? Because adding DO through bubblers, I don't think would be effective at such a large scale. Like we need.
One last point, the only place oxygen is in the air, so at the air-water interface is where the oxygen mixes, right?
Right.
So how are you ever gonna get oxygen down to the bottom unless the lake turns over twice a year, which it does? So in between, is there anything we can do? And I'm not seeing anything we can do.
Well, I don't see that a low dissolved oxygen at the bottom is actually a problem.
Oh, it's not a problem?
I don't think so.
It's definitely a natural thing to have. Until,
Are you saying in terms of preventing plant growth?
What is the result of having a low DO at the bottom in terms of our eutrophication?
Well, it's not good for like your fish and your,
We got
Other
plenty of room for
species.
fish, right?
There are a lot of fish in Forge Farm. They just aren't at 30 feet or 20 feet. They're higher up where there's oxygen.
right, well, maybe you'll spread out a little bit more.
but it's a natural thing, because you only get oxygen from the surface, so I'm not sure why we're testing all this, because there's nothing you can do about it, and a lot of it's just the way our ponds exist. They get oxygen on the top,
Well,
and
I
they
think,
turn over. and-
yeah, I mean, I think, knowing what our eutrophication is being fed by the nutrients, right? And so measuring our nutrients, I think, is very useful, so we can see what our issues are and what our loading is and how much you've got to fight. It's frustrating because it's not clear that there's a way to reduce the nutrients. I mean, we can, there's so many sources, and it's difficult to remove once it's in there. But that is what's driving our plant growth.
If we can get enough data to determine the sources of the phosphorus, there's federal funding available to help the farmers contain runoff with hay bales or whatever they do, various grading and things.
But it's pretty much the same at all the lakes, right? And Long Lake doesn't have Beaver Brook going through it. So,
We want you to have all the answers. Does University of Vermont need like research ponds? Like is there, I mean,
Because there's no other pond in the pond.
Yeah, I'm having
There's a couple in
a.
Vermont.
they want some good dead lakes that need some help.
They have plenty of that, considering the
Yeah.
scale of agriculture on their watersheds. they have
Yeah.
More than enough phosphorus.
So going back to something you said, though, you said the problem is preventing it. So the dissolved oxygen is just gonna get eaten up by whatever's in the water, which is why
Right.
you're saying it kind of zero at the bottom. If you add more oxygen, it's just the plants are, and everything's just gonna eat that up. So
Plants don't need to know.
So if we're taking care of the plants, if we're taking care of the invasives and getting rid of those, that will free up oxygen. And if we're reducing somehow the algae load, right, that frees up oxygen.
Yes, oxygen is more a symptom here.
Yeah.
Plants also do use up dissolved oxygen for respiration. So they will actually absorb that they will produce oxygen when they photosynthesize.
Right.
But to actually unlock that energy, they need a release, they need to absorb.
So if we can be dealing with the invasive aquatic plants and the algae, that will help. In theory, we think.
It's always in theory, right? Like.
Right.
Yes, it's in theory, that should help. Theory, many times, especially in lake circumstances like here, when you do all the right things.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking of all the research, it still might not have a discernible effect. Because DO is a symptom, right? We're looking at a symptom of eutrophication. We're not looking at a cause. We're not looking at, this is something that happens because of eutrophication.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an indicator that we are at that eutrophic state, right? Because again, I brought this slide back up because in a healthy lake system, after that spring turnover happens where we have that high dissolved oxygen, surface organisms, algae, plants, fish that are obviously closer to the surface of the water column will use more of it, but it stays in higher reserves because it's not being used further down in the profile. Because there's still there's not enough activity between all those organisms that's eating it up and just eviscerating it. But in an unhealthy lake, DO is the highest at the air water interchange at the surface, and then it's all being used up everywhere. So one thing I would also like to point out is that when looking at solutions here and looking at this data, I love doing this and I love like diving into all this, but I should not be the last stop for, you know, how is this gonna change, you know, project what we're doing for the lakes? You know, like
This is your disclaimer.
yeah, this is my disclaimer, right? I'm not a certified limnologist.
Yeah.
So we are developing, lake, preservation plans
Mhm.
for each lake, to take information like this as well as, you know, what's happening around the lake, what's the status of condition of each lake, and these will provide recommendations for what we should be doing to try to preserve the lakes.
Yes, I believe Spectacle Pond has a management plan in the works now. That should be a direction we look much more towards.
And the other two lakes have them on the budget.
Yes, yeah. So those should hold maybe better evidence than a scattered data set that we have.
This is important input.
It is very important to look at, and it helps us determine what's happening in this season in our lake. You know?
When you buy fertilizer, it's NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. We chose 2 of those to test.
Yes.
And the third one was decided not to be as important, or?
Yeah, nitrogen and phosphorus in aquatic ecosystems, studies demonstrate those are the 2 strongest key indicators.
Potassium, not an issue.
It is a essential, it's not an ion.
Fertilizers it is. But,
Yeah, it is for aquatics too, but that's not. I just don't know what happened there. Our fertilizer, the EPA only tests when they're doing their lake assessment phosphorus and nitrogen, because they have ruled that those are the single 2 most important. We can do, you know, trace metal analyses, but if phosphorus is our limiting one, and nitrogen works with phosphorus, then those 2 are really the ones that are in focus.
Michael, is there anything we should be alarmed about right now? Is there some anomaly, or is this just the way
No,
next stage?
Yes, we should be alarmed.
I think we should
I'm
do,
asking.
yeah,
eutrophication is a normal thing. Every lake that has ever existed will eventually fill in with sediments, become a smaller lake, a wetland, and then like a moist area, or maybe stay a wetland. Nutrients will almost always, unless you're in like very isolated cases, will continue to come in. That's just how life works. It is being advanced much faster because of all this human interference from septic systems, from fertilizer, from stormwater runoff. Those are accelerating it a lot. I can't comment on the amount of concern because we're just seeing, like, the point of the historical data was to see, oh, in some areas we're kind of where we were a couple years ago, you know, looking at our median values, and a couple areas were a little worse than we've been in years past. So,
But the plant growth is a lot more abundant than it has been in past years.
yes, yeah, that's what I've heard at every lake.
And natural, I mean, eutrophication happens naturally, but without, you know, human intervention, it takes 1,000 to 10,000 years.
Much longer time.
And Mill Pond went from 12 feet to 3 feet in 20 years.
Yeah, but I don't know, when it's a dammed body of water, I imagine that.
Yeah, that's not a natural.
That's what the natural system wants to do. It wants it to be a wetlands, not a pond.
Only because it had all that plant growth.
Yeah.
yeah, I wanna, if you're not willing to go out strongly with concern, I certainly will, because we don't have data going back 10 years for this type of stuff,
We,
but okay,
I
well,
think we do.
we certainly do.
okay, now.
Water department.
Well, I'd like to look at them in comparison too, because there were some key points during your slideshow where I said, that looks like that's below a critical level. We're seeing, pollutant type nutrients that cause eutrophication in lakes on all of these graphs. The majority of the graphs show a pollution problem, but in the abstract anyway, right?
Yep.
And then this year, we have conspiring. It struck me, I was waiting for there to be a more serious problem with algae blooms and stuff, and I also vacation on Lake Winnipesaukee. A year ago, we had a horrible, like, first time in my life seeing algae blooms, and there were parts of the lake closed off, and that was shocking to me. And this year, I held my breath. This year, I think we got away without really bad problems. And I don't know why, but I feel like we should be leaders in and preparing ourselves for scenarios getting worse, because, and it hasn't been mentioned yet, but the really big aggravating factor is climate change, because the temperatures are going to make all those graphs are going to aggravate the situation in every case towards increased problems. So I think, I don't want to be a doomsayer, but I feel like we got a bye this year. We didn't have beach issues in a lot of places, including Lake Winnipesaukee. And I don't know why that is,
You're
but
saying you didn't have algae issues.
no.
The algae bloom,
We had tons of aquatic plants. More and more every year.
Invasive.
So,
Yeah, so that, I guess as a committee, we're battling and we're trying to decide how to go forward. The plants are probably here to stay. The aquatic nuisance and invasive plants and introduced species, that's a new thing. That explains sort of the shock of when we see our coves or our shallow ponds filling in with weeds over our course of our lifetime. That's explained in one way. But the other thing that I think we should really be concerned about is climate change and the increase in nutrient cavalier use of fertilizers and stuff, because people's lifestyles are changing. Where, I never saw my parents dump a bag of fertilizer or spread anything on it. My whole growing up, it always turned brown in the summer. I think the standards have changed a lot, and people are really indiscriminately polluting without knowing it. So I think there's a component of our committee that we could be better at promoting healthy lakes through education and through advocacy. Yeah, to try to stop it, to cut it off at the source. So we need to keep harvesting. We need to do whatever works best for the aquatic nuisances, because the pollutants are there in the lake water now and they're not going away. I heard you say that tonight, Michael. And we need to stop further flow of nutrients into the lake.
so for water quality, are the plants or the algae more important to be monitoring and dealing with?
In terms of public health, I would say algae is more important. There are blue-green algae species that can emit, again, in large enough quantities, and the conditions are right, that can release
But in
toxic.
terms of lake health or lake water quality, if you're trying to control these things, what are you more concerned about?
I would have to do more research.
I'm not sure what you mean by lake quality. Are you talking about lake ecology?
I mean, the invasives aren't going to necessarily cause a lot of these
Right, but
problems.
the invasives are going to be more biomass.
Yeah.
Yes, but they're also they're more biomass, they're gonna fill in the lake faster, but they're gonna take out the phosphorus in the lake until they decompose, right? So. They're going to
Having lived on-
improve the water quality to a certain point.
Having lived on the southern bay, that is like Batawakio Forge Pond for 15 years. I think we had one occasion in the 15 years when there was enough algae present to be a concern. Once, but almost every year, we have a really serious problem with invasive weeds. fouling the motors, getting in the way of swimming.
And
Filling in the lake.
displacing natural growth.
Yeah, so the lake is becoming a monoculture of just a few invasive plants. And that's a disaster for the ecology. It's a disaster for all the creatures that live in the lake. To me, the rooted plants are the problem. There isn't enough of a problem with the algae to be an issue. And when it is a problem, well, you can test, but the test results won't come back. The life of the algae is just a couple of days and then it's gone. So you just live with that. It comes and it goes. And it's infrequent enough that it hardly matters, at least on Lake Manawanaki. Now, I don't know about the other lakes.
And we talk about Mill Pond as, the poster child for eutrophication locally, right? Where it went from 12 feet to 3 feet in a couple of decades. Forge Pond, Manawanaki, you look at the state map for the depths for Manawanaki, it shows that the deepest place is 35 feet. And that map was put in place, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
I haven't found 35 feet on my depth finder.
Right, and now it's 30 feet is the deepest you can find. So that's 5 feet in, I don't know, at most 10 years, right? For that part of the lake, right?
Yeah, but that part of the lake, it's not that it's filling up with weeds, because if you've ever dropped anchor in that area, it just slides along the bottom on the rocks. Or the sand. There's no weeds out there.
I don't think it's weeds, I think it's,
Or even muck.
there is muck,
There is muck.
yeah,
In the middle.
yeah.
Yeah, I dropped an anchor there. When I pull it up, it's covered with
No,
muck.
I mean, you're going around the deepest spot is when you're going around the corner, right in that area.
The deepest spot is about midway between the Westford Beach and the Peterson's house on the point.
Yeah,
And if I drop anchor there, the anchor comes up with a layer of muck on it this thick.
I never got any muck.
So this map, this is the Fish and Wildlife map.
Doesn't have a date on
Oh, I thought it did.
it. Mm.
It says it's 37 feet in the deepest place.
And most you can find now is 30.
Yeah,
So I agree that I think, for our lakes, the eutrophication is the issue, and the rooted aquatic plants are what's driving that. I mean, what's causing, the nutrients are causing high growth along with, continued warmer weather for these aquatic rooted plants, and then they die and they fill in the lake, and that is causing the lakes to slowly die.
Now we're talking priority.
We are.
Yeah, I mean, I think you raised a good point, though, like catastrophes are gonna happen, there are gonna be outbreaks of things, and we may not be prepared for them. So yes, invasives seem dire, but when Long Lake is shut down for 2 weeks, that's good, because there's an algae bloom or something, that's gonna be bad. So we have to kind of think about all of these factors.
has it ever happened that an algae bloom has lasted 2 weeks?
I'm being extravagant here, but I don't know, probably not. Can an algae bloom last 2 weeks?
On the one
In
occasion,
those conditions, yeah.
There, so.
Probably not, but
Michael,
We
what's
got, like,
the phonology is some
things are
big
changing.
text or something that,
Great question,
you
John.
got it.
Great question.
I've got a copy for all of us.
Oh, look at this.
Not for this, but this is a great textbook if anyone wants continued reading. This was a college textbook for limnology, so great,
Awesome.
good stuff.
Good to chew on.
Yes, thick to chew on.
This is really great, what you have pulled together for us. It's a lot more informative than we often have had, than we usually have.
Thank you. I like
Thank you
it.
very much.
which is why we have so many questions.
Yes, it was a wonderful to get out on some of your boats and learn about the lake together. So I really enjoyed this presentation. So
Well, we hope we can continue that and up it. So,
How long have you been with Littleton?
I started on June, I'm gonna be, next week, I'm gonna be 5 months in. So I started in June
Welcome.
15th.
We welcome expertise here, where most of us are just lay people who don't really know what we're talking about. So appreciate your expertise for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Generous word, expertise.
Well, it's more than most of ours. I don't mean to speak for everyone. Some of you actually are professionals.
School for this, we didn't. I don't have the limnology textbook.
Otherwise.
He just steps away though. Easily acquired.
So we are looking for suggestions and input and guidance.
I think we probably need to move on.
That's great, Michael, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
That was giant, and I'll send out copies to the whole.
Please do. Yeah, if anyone wants questions, my contact info is on the back there for last slide. So if you have questions, if you want more further reading, if you want raw data, I got it all. So
That's super.
let me know.
Good
Thanks very
job.
much.
Did you just graduate in June?
I did, yeah.
Wow, this is like your college, I don't know, your capstone presentation tonight.
Oh.
So,
I had plenty of.
good work. Tell your professors you passed with flying colors.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
That's awesome. Okay, I hope everyone's had a chance to review last month's minutes. Did through the essentials here real quick. I think the only thing I would suggest is there is a mention of us not being able to do any removal, mitigation of invasive aquatics. And I think we should say mechanical removal, because we're not prevented from using herbicides at this point.
Are we prevented from using mechanical?
What's that?
How are we prevented from using mechanical below
Because-
99 cubic yards?
No, we don't have any permits.
It's cumulative.
Oh, it's
They've expired.
cumulative.
Yeah, it's all cumulative, so
Oh.
we need,
Isn't it like, it's like
yeah. Don't you wish? Well, actually, we were operating that way for a while. No, that's why we need the minor dredging permit, to do mechanical removal. But that should not impact, herbicide treatment. So we were talking about, yeah, it's that, CLC members have had questions about the status of the application of, minor dredging permits, about the third paragraph up from the bottom.
Before further removal of invasive plants.
Yeah, which the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection is requiring for further removal of invasive plants, but they're not.
Oh,
It's mechanical removal.
well, I would say herbicides isn't removing it, it's just killing it.
Okay, but that's management. It's still, it's mitigation.
Mechanical removal.
And the two work in concert, accomplish similar ends, but there's debris. That's the only revision I'd suggest.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Approve the minutes.
Let's do that. Time's at 10 o'clock.
thought you were pretty
I make a move to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Leon?
Aye.
Thanks, sir. Ed? Got it.
Aye.
Thank you.
You just open up.
It's unanimous. Let's jump forward. Wow. It just keeps getting groovier and groovier. The current update on the 2025 water. Oh, we had that. We just, Michael Grego just left. Mass DPW or DEP minor dredging permit application update. Oh, I wish I had better news. We do not have anything in place for this year. There was a contract for the work that TRC was going to do in terms of compiling all this information and submitting it to the DEP. The contract was not signed until mid-July. and they were up and running about that point in time. And by that point in the summer, some of the invasive plants have already died off. They need full gamut of everything that's growing that we plan on attacking. So that has now been pushed to next spring, next summer. At which point in time they anticipate maybe submitting the whole package mid to late summer. We lost another season of potential
Eco harvesting.
eco harvesting.
Wow.
They can't help it. I mean, it's been our focus for months and months and months. They got everything in place, got their team together, worked out the initial stab at it and said, really, it's too late in the season to even start this. So we were operating under the assumption that they were moving full bore, and that the application will have been processed, and if it hasn't already been submitted, it will be submitted shortly. It will not. It will be a year out. Very disappointing news, but I wanted to thank Leon for the initial outreach to TRC, Dave for his follow-up questions. They are coordinating now with Solitude in terms of, we're assuming that we'll be doing herbicide treatments, and they'll get in and do their testing before herbicides are used, so they can get all the samples that they need. And then water samples at outfalls and what have you, soil samples and everything else they need. But again, happening spring and summer next year, 2026. So,
As the contract was being approved, we were told that the application would be submitted by late summer.
that whole process started maybe in March. Request was made to see if we could actually have them do that, and whether or not they've ever done this before and everything else. And at least a month and a half passed before they could organize.
I believe it was July when we approved that we were gonna, or June, that we were gonna hire TRC to do this.
It's true.
And at the time, we were.
But they weren't ready to drop everything they were doing and jump in here. All I'm saying is, our focus was this. Our focus was like, let's just get this thing done. Let's turn it over to an engineering firm who can take this and run with it. Well, you know, they have other things they've been running with. So I'm sorry to report this, but it's not.
We were told by TRC, it wasn't.
They were warning us that if we did not proceed with this rapidly, then we missed their window.
At the time we approved it, we were told by TRC that they would be submitting it by.
We never got warned away. We were never told otherwise. We were never told that this can't be done for another year.
Until after the contract was signed.
Well, until last month. When we assumed everything.
Well, we were asking questions and they weren't answering.
Right.
So by another year, I thought they were going to do eco harvesting next spring.
We can't do any eco harvesting.
They can't even get the
Why we
permits.
need to do this?
Right, but now, are you saying they're not doing it in 26, they're doing it in 27?
No, we won't get a permit.
When you say eco harvesting, I think you mean sediment sampling and plant sampling.
No, I
No,
mean,
I mean, eco
Okay.
harvesting.
I thought.
Not this summer coming up.
The timeline is now in 2026, they will do all of the sampling in order to get a permit so that we can do eco harvesting in 27.
That's what,
Yeah.
that's what I was asking.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's the situation.
that's
now.
the situation.
That's
Yeah,
why
and I
we're-
had heard-
that's why we're not happy.
yeah, and I had heard also that what you were sharing, that TRC had given us some assurance that they would be able to do it. So that is very disappointing. Yeah,
Right.
Because I thought, like, the end of June, we were like, it was all happy, we were all happy about it.
yeah.
And you were going, I got it in time and this
Yeah.
and that, and we're gonna get it.
This is a problem with the lag between what we'd like to do
Oh.
and what actually comes to pass, and the gathering of monies, and it's all coming through the water department. And they're kind of once removed because they're not here right now. There is, okay, in a number of different places, not enough urgency. It's not being ramrodded. It's not going through. We're not hitting the mark. And it reflects poorly. This is the worst news. It's a year out. And that is indicative of the problems we have dealing with invasive plants and dealing with things on a seasonal basis when we don't know exactly what to anticipate until it's a crisis, and then it's too late because we haven't got the money. And we haven't got the permits, and we haven't, check any of the boxes.
Well, we have an unclear process that DEP.
That's why we hired the engineers, and I am so glad we did, I'll tell you, because if we were doing this on our own, it'd be another year.
Right.
So
next year we will do herbicide treatment.
where we can do herbicide treatments, we will do herbicide treatments. The only lake right now that doesn't have any kind of monies allocated or that can be used for herbicide treatments is Long Lake. All the funding we have through the CPC is specifically for eco harvesting or removal of floating islands.
So, are we gonna have to bid, for herbicides again? For Mattawanakee, our funding, we would need to go back to CPC and say, we came last summer and we asked to be able to use some of our eco harvesting funding for herbicides this summer. Would you allow us to do that next summer because we're in the same situation? Assuming they agree, would that funding, would the contract for that need to be done through the water department, or would that be done through the select board or through CPC?
I think it's through the town now and
So we're taking over all the contracts. Don't go through the water department or conservation department. They're going to be doing.
So they won't be going through the water department then?
Oh, they might,
Yes.
or
You just said they will.
Actually,
I was trying,
Nick is-
I couldn't tell what word he said. I'm trying to
Yes.
understand.
The water department, water and conservation are going to be taking over management of all contracts, all RFPs, everything in the budget too.
So
They're going to be doing
that means we would need to bid it again because we're gonna have more than $50,000 of aggregate
well, I think,
herbicide costs.
think under the circumstances, I'd like to see the bidding process, or if whatever process it is that we do, I think we should refine the process. Right now, we are committed to work on lakes based on data that's 3 years old.
So,
So I think if we hire Solitude to do herbicide treatments, they should come to the lakes, inspect the lakes and see what problems there are and formulate an opinion. That's what they usually do, but they didn't do that.
so my question was, are we going to have to bid again? And assuming we do,
I don't know, but I would imagine, yes.
well, I mean, my point is, if the costs are gonna be high enough that the process would have to be bid, we'll have to bid it again because the bidding from last year is no longer applicable.
Right.
The process definitely needs to be changed because we were blocked from being able to do herbicide treatments last year because of the structure of the bidding process.
Right.
Where they said, your lake had a bid of $150,000, you haven't got $150,000, so you can't do anything.
Right.
Which is not a good process.
No, and it's a situation now where we may even have limited funds. That we can't allocate exactly what they prescribe. So we can't fulfill, we can say, all right, we have X number of dollars on such and such a lake.
So we can work with whoever's doing the bidding to have a bidding process and a contracting process, which is flexible enough to meet the needs for what we have to do. And we should do it soon enough so that we can get the bidding done in time to do,
Yeah.
early herbicide treatments.
I know they're getting ready to do the bid. I believe they're doing herbicides on spec pond and they're getting ready to do the bidding sometime in the next month.
Well,
I'm sorry, they can't do any bidding in the next month.
Why can't they?
Well, there's nothing to,
To look at.
there's nothing to look at.
They're gonna issue the RFPs.
so they need to, we need to be involved in that because, the bidding process used last time was not appropriate.
Oh,
The process itself precluded doing anything with the result.
Like I said, we wanted to do treatment on Matawanaki that was smaller than the $150,000 that was bid. Because of the structure of the bidding process, we were told that unless you have $150,000 for your treatment, you can't do anything. And so the bidding process needs to be more incremental. Here's the process. You're going to come and do sampling to see what's needed. You will propose what's needed. Your bids will be on a unit basis per acre. And depending on how much acreage you propose needs to be done based on the plant sampling, then that's what the cost of the treatment will be.
so my understanding is you have money to do herbicide treatment on spec pond from the water department.
Yes.
The water department is getting ready to issue those bids, right? They know what they're doing.
Based on what?
What do you mean based on what?
What invasive growth?
Well, they have a management plan that they're going to have. That should be done in time. They're using
It has
that.
nothing
plan.
to do with the amount of invasives they have on their
So the,
pond.
The plan tells them what they should be doing and where. My
no,
understanding from-
You misunderstand.
So I
That is
think
not
what,
what
You need-
I think what these guys are saying is when we've done RFPs in the past, generally it happens in the springtime when they are able to
doesn't
go
matter.
out. It doesn't matter when.
the RFP needs to include a process where the vendor will, early in the season, in the spring, early summer, they will come in and evaluate what the condition of the lake is and what needs to be done for that season on the lake.
And
That
then
has,
they,
that has
then
to
they
be
price it out.
part of what is being bid for. And then, depending on what they find, they will propose, here's what needs to be done as a treatment this year for this lake. And, depending on how many acres here, how many acres here, how many acres here, that will end up, with a total amount of treatment. And the bidding process needs to say, what will your cost be per acre for if you're using this treatment, if you're using this treatment, if you're using this treatment, what will your cost per acre be? And then depending on what they find in their plant survey and their proposal, that's what the cost of the treatment will be on that lake for that season. And that was unless they are if they're changing to do that this time, that's great. But they are, if they're doing Spectacle Pond, what about the treatments that are needed for Matawanaki?
So I don't know what your budget is for 26 or, I don't know what, honestly, I don't remember what was talked about for the other lakes. I know that they said they were getting ready to do the bidding for Spec Pond and
Well, they control the funding for
right.
Spec Pond.
So if they're ready
Well,
to
I
do
think,
for all
may
that-
I interject, the bidding for Spectacle Pond for next year was 47,500, and I thought that was a go. So now I don't know what this RFP is that you're talking about. Is it for the subsequent year?
It's for 26, the FY 26. I don't believe they signed a contract yet, is my
Oh.
understanding.
I
I could be
thought there
wrong.
was a 47,500 already bid by Solitude, and that was based on TRC's sampling and maps of the invasives. That's what
That was based on the sampling and maps for 2024,
That's right. Yes.
not 2025 even, certainly
No.
not 2026.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I'm confused.
All we're saying is that there should be some assessment of actual conditions.
Yeah.
And if it's more expensive or less expensive, that's fine, at least we'll know.
Well, wait, I think we're also saying that we need a solicitation structure that gets bids in that are incremental.
Yes,
The last time the bid said, we'll do everything for 150 grand.
and there's
Because there
no,
wasn't 150 grand and we couldn't buy everything, we weren't allowed to buy 3/4 of it.
Right.
So the structure of the bid itself prevented.
Right.
So in addition,
we pretty much talked ourselves out of doing anything.
well,
We assured ourselves we couldn't touch it.
Yeah, can we let Mark, address all this? Because I half understand it, but I wanna know if you fully understand.
I understand what your concerns are, yes, so,
Uh-huh.
I mean, the water department and conservation department do these types of bids all, they know how to write these RFPs, so.
they don't, they didn't.
Again, let Mark
I mean,
talk.
they're the
He's
professionals.
volunteering his time.
They know how to do this.
Guys,
They will write the RFPs, so,
Last year, it wasn't an adequate RFP. Okay? And this year, it sounds like they're not including Mattawanaki.
so I am not positive what they're doing on Manawanakie. I really don't know, but I know that they were getting ready to do the Long Lake, or the Spec Pond one.
Spec fund.
I will follow up with the other ones and figure out what they're doing. There was a lot of talk of whether the eco harvesting was happening with, Manawanakie, and I mean, I don't have. great
Now it's
hopes.
not.
So I don't know that anyone knows the eco harvesting wasn't happening yet, but they didn't know when I was talking to them, let's say that.
Well,
So who at Water is the right,
Nick,
so I thought Nick was supposed to be a liaison to this
He is,
team, right? So apparently there's not communication happening.
so if Nick knew about that, the not eco harvesting, he didn't tell me when I met with him
He did
2 weeks ago. So
We didn't know until weeks ago.
I met with him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So,
About the time we got that email.
Well, they were on the email.
They were.
So
included.
it was clear from the email that we weren't gonna be able to do at
Yeah,
harvesting
but
next year.
again, this is just really, it's difficult to make any kind of, an accurate quote for the cost of work when you don't understand the scope of the work.
yeah, I know they were planning on doing you had in your budget as part of the management doing the plant sampling, so that's still there.
Yeah.
So. I'm just not entirely positive who.
I mean, they may be preparing the paperwork, which is great,
Mhm.
but, Solitude can't really give them an accurate number until they see what the conditions are in spring. We may have a very successful winter, and everything disappears. Seems to have happened the past couple of years of all of it.
John, so when I hear that, it sounds like we're stuck and there's no way out. I wonder if there's a partial way out or like, a kind of proposal where we could say, anybody submitting this proposal to the town for 2026 should expect to put in part of their bid being sampling and engineering, and part of the bid being application. And so if they know they're, then aren't they in the driver's seat here for what they propose?
Right.
And then they're gonna spend so much on sampling, give us an answer. And if unfortunately the bid wasn't enough to cover all the application that's needed, they'll do a half application.
no.
Well, see, that wasn't an option last year.
No, but I'm talking about 2026. Can't we go forward under that assumption?
We have to work together to make sure that the bid process is structured to allow that.
Right, so that's my question to you, Mark.
Yes.
Do you think that could
Yes,
happen?
yes. And in the 27 budget, I don't think, forgetting Spec Pond for a moment,
Mhm.
all the other lakes will be one management plan. Then we don't have to go through and say there's enough money for Manawanakie but not Long Lake. There's X amount of money, and then as we issue the RFP, can decide how to divvy up the money. It's not in one pot versus another that you have to worry about, right? It's one pot. We can manage it better.
So the funding from the water department will be specifically for Spec Pond and some common
Yes.
items, and the rest of the funding will be a single
Yeah.
pot that will be allocated based on what we feel
Yes,
what is understood to be the current needs.
right. Like, we can't necessarily do that for 26 because of how it was already funded, but for 27, that was. I mean, in the spreadsheet, the document I sent around, it calls them out separately, but there will be one budget line item, not two. Right, plus, not two, not Long Lake versus Forge. Mine will be separate.
So, okay, are we gonna have time to do budget?
Well, what do we think? Do we wanna, it's so lot to take on tonight.
I will follow up on the RFPs with Nick and see what's going on, so.
And
When does the budget need to get submitted if we continue, like?
so at the last meeting,
8:45, so
we,
I'm taking care of the budget.
You're taking care of the
So if you
budget.
guys, yeah. So I sent something around
Yeah,
that said, but,
yeah,
yeah.
when did you send that?
a couple of hours
A few
before
hours
this
ago.
meeting.
Oh,
All right.
I apologize.
so was that based on what we sent you?
It was partially based on what you sent, yes. So I took that, I went to Nick and the Conservation Department and said, what can we, and what do we think we can get from all of the different sources? And it has, we moved up the management plans for Forge and Long Lake to be both funded this year. What's not in
For this year or
for 27.
For
next-
so
next
it was already in for 27.
One of them was, one of them
Right,
wasn't.
Long Lake
They're
got
both
moved up.
moved up.
Yeah.
Right, I think the, invasive management been cut slightly, not substantially. What was taken, what isn't in the budget that I showed was things like, the boat ramp and your, study for the drawdown things,
Mhm.
right, which are not in the things that I'm trying to take over, right? That is still something that if you guys want to advocate for, that's something you should go to CPC funds for. That's not something that's invasive specific or that the town is going to be trying to manage, right? So if those aren't in the budget, so it works out slightly lower budget, but not substantially lower when you take those things out, I think. But it's where we,
Is the select board expecting that part of that pot, aside from the water permit, would come from CPC or not include anything from CPC?
I would expect some of it's coming from CPC, but we haven't put out those details yet.
But then, so if
The select, we will do that, either the select board will do it or the conservation department or
okay,
something.
but that wouldn't include,
You don't have to,
well, but but you're saying we would need to do it for the engineering study for the drawdowns.
for something like that, yes, but the invasive management, the lake management plans, those are on the select board.
Okay.
Question about terminology. Can we call a lake management plan a lake preservation
I
plan?
think they're called lake preservation plans,
Yeah.
yes, so.
I think when applying for CPC funds,
That's important.
that'll play better.
I really need to go, unfortunately. I can't stick around for the rest of this, but I would like to say one more thing, if that would be okay. You mentioned that Long Lake had a special circumstance where the mechanical harvesting couldn't happen because of the interruption of our permit.
All of the lakes.
Right, but then that there wasn't anything available for herbicide treatment in this coming year. That's the kind of thing that maybe you could approach as a fresh project. With the project that you have at CPC for mechanical harvesting, the projects can stay, once the money's voted through town meeting, it's there for a couple of years, I
Mhm.
understand, so maybe
3 years.
you
we
could
understand.
target, say, for 2026, bring it to us before the spring, or in the spring, and see if you could get just a targeted application.
Well, I mean, we could certainly apply now.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so we could get funding, potentially get funding that could start in June. I mean, the work could start in June. The town meeting's in May. Once it gets approved at town meeting, the CPC funding is available.
Yeah, the question is whether that's too late for a lot of the herbicides.
Well, for Spec Pond, they've got curly pondweed, which needs to be done sooner, but the others, starting in June would be okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if you get the CPC money in June or July, because of fiscal year boundaries, so.
That's the first of July.
Is it,
Oh, I thought, what was it, the CPC monies were?
I thought once.
I'm not-
Maybe
I'm
are you
not sure.
suggesting that
I
the
don't
money
know,
that
maybe
we've
it's-
already asked for from CPC, which was earmarked for eco harvesting at Long Lake, are you saying that we could go to CPC and say, can we change that?
No,
We already tried.
Already
They said-
tried.
Saying,
No,
no, you
okay.
don't
Well,
have
it's
to.
there, just to start a new
Yeah.
application
Okay,
for this idea, you know. I'm sorry, guys.
No, hey, we appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, I gotta bug
thanks
out
for
too,
your
we got
involvement.
equipment, guys.
Thanks, Jerry.
See you guys.
Thanks, Vin.
You're welcome.
welcome to the club, Jerry.
So, but what wasn't, there's nothing from Mill Pond in the budget I sent for Goldful. You had a little bit for Goldful. There was concern, the question was whether the water chestnuts are back and anything has to be done at Goldful.
There's nobody's looked at it
So,
in that regard.
so I don't know what needs to be done on that area, if someone's is going to be looking at it, who should be looking at it, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So,
Solitude has done the work in the past, they would go and assess and say, the last time they did it, it was $1,600. Well, $1,400, I think it was. You know, but, I'm sure it's like 3 or 4 times that much right now.
so we haven't looked in a while, so we, as far as we know, there's,
As not with the herbicide or the invasive that Spec Bond and Maniwaki have just been all consuming.
okay, so we don't know that there's a problem.
I'm sure there's a problem. The gestation period, the longevity of those seeds is 7 years, so it's in the mud and it's well established. It's difficult to eradicate, but we did, well, I don't know if we're gonna have time to really go through the budget tonight, but in the most general terms, Dave and I got together shortly after the last meeting and we cleaned up my negative numbers, which wasn't very helpful. And do a red line after 2026 to say that everything beyond 2026 is an ask. So that hopefully add some clarification. And we targeted herbicide treatments to be 30% successful over the next 5 years. Don't know if that's overly aggressive, but if we can't demonstrate we're making some sort of positive impact, then we can't really even continue to ask for these numbers. So we're hoping for more dramatic results than that, but 30% seemed to be a good starting point. So, that's where things stand. The restoration plans were staggered, are still staggered, just because I don't think there'll be funding available for 2 more lakes next year to do simultaneously. I don't.
Well, he was just saying that he moved Long Lake up to next
Your
year.
preservation plans for both next year.
Fine, if there's monies available.
They took out, they moved things around, we'll have to look at it.
Well,
So there's like $60,000 for preservation plans and $65,000 for invasive painting.
Total.
Plus outside of spec pond. So,
And that says we can't do eco harvesting. That's 26.
So 65 for all 3 lakes.
for the 2 lakes,
The 2.
roughly in rough.
Yeah, I was gonna say 65 probably start at Maniwaki.
Well, we've still got 80,000 from CPC
Okay,
that, from our allocation last year.
and that'll be drawn immediately. I mean, that's what we're talking about now. You're asking
This would
for
be-
another 65
65 for
for 77
spring of 27.
Yeah.
or 27.
Well, that would, that
So you
would,
have, the funding you have for Maniwaki is what you would use next spring.
so if you're saying 65 for FY 27, which would be CPC, cycle this winter,
Possibly, yeah,
which would be available this summer.
It'll be available this summer, targeting use next, in the spring of 27. Because if it's herbicides, everyone's been telling me that the herbicides are best done before July. So
Oh, it should be,
it would be,
May, you know,
So it'd be-
before the beach is even
it would
open.
be 27 that we would be using. What we're asking for now is money that would be, you know,
Fiscal year
the 27 season.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll have to look at that and we can reach out to you and, kind of work together to see if anything might be adjusted if there are concerns or suggestions.
And I'm looking for funding sources other than CPC and too, so.
Yeah, I have to reach out to, Parks and Rec to see what kind of funding, they've collected already. I don't have an exact number, but to see if they could expand that program for next year. To do the camp kids and everything else would be, very beneficial for ongoing expenses in the long run.
I would suggest you get on their agenda very soon.
So I'll come to a head.
Because, they probably are setting camp rates in the near future, so.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Anything else in the
Or-
budget?
yeah, I think, since you've gone ahead and altered things, maybe you could share a copy of that with us.
I emailed it to you.
Oh, did you, just today?
I emailed.
Yeah,
it.
right before the meeting, 5:11.
Just before the meeting.
It's very clear, yeah.
That's cool. No, hey, it's time. Credit to the walk.
Clear is good.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a-
Forge
thank you,
Pond,
Mark.
we'll just change management plan to preservation plan, and then these are all the line items of what's included in the preservation plan.
Yes.
Bathymetry, these are terms I've never even heard. I was glad to see fish community is like count. I was at the Green Action Council, whatever that is, and I met the guy from Harvard, Bruce Laker, he's the chair of the Harvard Bear Hill Pond. It was really interesting talking to him. I got his email. He basically said DCR doesn't know what they're talking about with herbicides. Herbicides kill fish. He said eco harvesting is a nightmare, and the best thing to do to reduce invasives is drawdowns, like aggressive drawdowns. And they have a pumping station in Harvard.
They
actually-
have a siphon over there.
They
Dan.
build it down to like 6 feet or something, and they leave it exposed all winter long, and then it fills back up naturally, and they have seen their invasives
Sure,
kind
yeah.
of disappear.
Well,
And natural
Depending
plants are
on
coming
the-
back, and the fish populations are coming back.
yeah.
And it was really interesting. I didn't dig into all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff on their website, the management plans and all that.
We're not allowed to take ours down that much.
But why?
It's a DEP, I mean, our permit doesn't allow us.
We can appeal that. I mean, the permit said.
Right now, we're not allowed. to-
Yeah, right now we're
Right
not
now,
allowed to,
And
but
what we're looking at is with the engineering plan, the reason for the engineering plan was to see, could we make changes? I mean, even only being allowed to take it down to where we are right now, we can't get it down that far because of constraints at the outlet. The
Or weather.
and weather. The engineering plan, or the engineering study was designed to look at what could we do structurally there to allow us to get lower. And if we could get lower, then we'd have to A, get approval to bring it down lower, and B, get funding and approval from the owner of the dam, and, you know, permits and such to do whatever it would take to get it down lower. So it's
yeah, it sounds like it's complicated. I mean, and Harvard solved it with a pumping station, which I'm sure costs money, but he said that got funded through a grant. But if you think about the long-term costs, perhaps maybe that would be better for us than eco harvesting every year and herbicides every year. So something to talk about. I don't think we have to talk about it tonight. It's too late, but that was interesting to me. And I don't know what that does for Long Lake, but.
So, yeah, I mean, our drawdowns for 10 years have done well for Forge Pond. In the
Yeah.
last several years, they haven't done very well because of the weather.
Yeah.
But also we're focused on seeing if we can get the drawdowns to be lower to be more effective.
Yeah, well, maybe that's something we can prioritize and.
They just, well, yeah, so that's, now we have to go and get it ourselves.
Yeah,
What I was trying to say is, you guys can focus on that and I'll focus on the invasive stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the idea of pumping, I don't think can work for Forge Pond.
it probably wouldn't work for any of the lakes in our town.
The flow is too high.
Yeah,
Flow through Forge Pond is.
Yeah.
I mean, it would take just giant pumps. It costs a ton of money to run.
Oh,
Well-
and the inflows are gonna counter that immediately, right?
but this pond, I mean, that pond is bigger than any of ours, I think, Bear
It's
Hill.
pretty shallow and I'm not sure how much flow it has through it.
It isn't the size or the depth, it's the flow. So the
Yeah.
flow through Forge Pond is higher than 90% of other lakes on the planet.
Wow,
It really is,
wow,
yeah. So
Including Lake Superior.
wow, it's very
I'd
superior.
have to look up Lake Superior, but
Probably not.
I mean, I know this is stuff you guys have done for years, but we don't talk about it much in this group, so other than that you do it, so,
Yeah, we never talked about it because it never cost anything.
right,
So it was.
right, but maybe if we invest in it, maybe it would be more effective and maybe
Yeah,
they'll
we
have
could
an.
pump out Long Lake, but it would stay pumped.
That's what, it was in the plan for this year and, we weren't allowed to spend the money.
No.
So now do we choose when next meeting is?
Yeah,
I think that's the next,
Let's create like a winter diversion.
yeah,
for the lake, for the water.
yeah.
That's what the pumping and siphon is that. And the thing Dave mentioned, physical construction at the outlet to the lake would be that also. So there's a bunch of ways to do that. Would run into quite a bit of money. But we might very well be able to get grants for it if we proved that it was practical and would work.
Yeah, maybe there's grant funding for something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Harvard, they said they pump it into the wetlands or something.
No, they pump it over the dam.
Oh, they pump it over there.
Yeah, it still goes out the outlet, but
Oh, okay,
the dam is higher than the level they want to bring it down to, so they
yeah,
pump it out.
yeah, that guy, Bruce he had some opinions.
Yes, he's very opinionated.
Oh, you
So is
know,
Mark.
yeah. DCR, he was like, they don't know what they're talking about with herbicides, they're, you know,
Really?
yeah,
Well,
he was like, they're wrong,
I think it works differently in different situations.
it very well could, but he was also talking about the fish populations and saying that the herbicides, like, they've seen it, herbicides kill the fish. And I don't know, Jerry seems to, like, that seems to be his thing, so,
Well,
And the
you know, I talk
drawdowns.
to Solitude and they say, you know, they're carefully
Well,
targeted.
I mean,
yeah.
theirs probably do. If they bring them down that far.
Yeah.
The data that DCR should show us shows nothing of that.
I know, so
Like,
everyone's
like-
gonna have an
They've
opinion,
got
right?
like 80 years of data that we saw in that one presentation.
I will ask
Yeah.
Bruce more about why he thinks
Yeah.
that, what data he's got, because he was adamant, yeah.
Yeah.
So Sierra did him.
Well, that is Thursday fashion.
I mean, I love passion, don't get me wrong.
Hey, December, why don't we target early on, 3rd, maybe the 10th? Just a size,
Both work for me.
yeah,
I can't do the 10th, I'd have to do the 3rd, but
3rd sounds good. We'll see if there isn't anything that we need to address till end of the year. At that point.
which day did we choose?
December 3rd.
Is that a Wednesday?
It's a Wednesday.
I like Wednesdays.
Okay, well.
does that work
should
for
be there.
our folks on the
I
phone?
don't like Monday, we're in trouble.
Okay,
Leon, Ed,
December 3rd, we're gonna be targeting our next meeting.
Yeah. I'm
Sounds good to me.
Number 3.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you both for being there out there. If there's no other comments, I think we can bring this to a close. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the dock situation at Long Lake, but it's not changing anytime too soon.
Oh, yeah, I'm curious to hear how that meeting went.
It'll keep, oh, and I did wanna,
Those
I did
dogs.
wanna thank you for, speaking up at the special town meeting. That was wonderful. It was great. It was-
I got inspired.
Yeah,
I
good
was-
job.
I was in the annex, I was in the cafeteria, but
Ah.
I thought it was really great, that you sort of.
Well, that was the climate change, resolution.
Yeah, objecting to the fact that it's not a crisis.
Right.
What else would you go?
That was Jerry, not this Jerry. I don't mind I don't have to shovel as much now. It's not an emergency. It's great.
Okay.
It's good that you don't have to shovel a lot, but it means that the lakes aren't freezing, and as a result, there's a lot more invasives, and there's all these little things that are,
That takes year round and all of that. No, it was a nice discussion.
Well, I get very nervous talking in front of town meetings.
Well, you
You did a great job.
Thank you.
didn't show.
Thank you. But
Thank
what
you,
happened
thank
with
you
the
all.
docks, like at the?
Oh, well, it's just,
Continue
it's
to the 18th.
Oh,
really,
that was
That's the
it.
best things on Costco.
yeah. I tuned in at 1 o'clock in the morning from London. And, but, I'm hoping we could have a meeting, like face to face.
Yeah.
Zoom call is just insane. There's 30 other people there and you have no idea who's there.
Right.
It's like, Rob Rouse said, can't we meet face to face? Can't we discuss this? Looking at one another, understanding, that there are concerns and sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what becomes of that park strip, is, well, it impacts everybody. And there are things where it's being abused now, and I think there are things that are beneficial. But, it's not gonna resolve itself.
Are you aware of this issue on Long Lake? It's the conservation,
Yeah.
And there's this PDF that's circulated with pictures of all the illegal
I
things,
saw it.
and
Actually, I
docks
studied
and
it.
mailboxes, and it was really good detail. Buoys that are out there that shouldn't be.
But, yeah,
I mean, it's all the stuff that's like in your neighborhood, like when you live in Long Lake, we all are used to that boat there and that
it
dock
has gotten
there.
a little out of control.
Yeah.
But, and then when
Are you
people
on
put up
Long Lake?
gates and fences.
I'm not on the lake, I'm across Goldsmith, so I can walk
She's
to
in
the
the
lake.
neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm in the neighborhood, so I walk around the neighborhood a lot, yeah.
It's your nearest lake.
So,
My
good.
nearest lake.
I think-
It's why I moved to Littleton, was
Yeah.
that lake, yes.
But, I think, I don't know that they have another meeting. So,
November 18th.
18th? Yeah, so be it.
We should have a watch party.
Which we take.
I mean, my property's not affected, so I was just kind of like, what's the down low? I'm sure a lot of people are very upset, who have their dogs set up.
Water access for the neighborhood is really, is very important. And whether the town provides that or whether we tolerate some private docks, I don't know, but,
Right, it seems to me,
I don't think anybody has a dock on Long Lake to be abusive or to be somehow destructive.
Right.
It's for everyone's use, it's for convenience.
well, but if people have a dock and they,
trespassing.
like, that's their private dock and you can't, I mean, it needs to be a community
It's
dock,
not-
I guess that
Not
would
a
be the
community
argument.
dock, and that's why there are no trespassing signs on all the docks, because it's like, well, the goofy liability issue at that point, because if somebody hurts himself on the dock, oh, I didn't give you permission. It isn't gonna hold any water.
And who's liable? Who pays for the maintenance? It's
Yeah.
really complicated. It's really hard to say what should happen
Well,
there.
yeah, and I've mowed the lawn across the street on that park strip and kept an open area for everybody for 30 years,
Years, yeah.
35 years. And it's, this is something that was, well, we arrived there when we moved in, there were 3 abandoned cars parked over there.
So are you not supposed to be mowing that? Does that
You
get,
tell me,
right, what was that, was that called
It's
into?
completely laissez-faire. I mean, we were
Yeah.
told,
That will
we moved
also
in,
be
if we were to maintain or
Then just
Well,
go to the
it's
town
not
for your mowing.
if we were to police that area, then, we could have certain,
Are you familiar with the legal doctrine of adverse possession?
this doesn't work here.
I don't think it applies to municipal.
It's municipal property.
It doesn't apply to what?
You can't do that on a municipal property.
It doesn't apply.
I see.
You know,
Okay.
the Silverbirds will try to get away.
Owned by the town.
But, hey, we should shut this off.
Yeah, all right.
So I move we adjourn the meeting.
Seconded.
Everybody's behind that. And we're calling it a night, folks.